Chapter 176. She went out to check on Ji Pingon. As expected, he hadn't left. Seeing the two elders chatting happily, it was very likely that Ji Pingon would stay for dinner tonight. Of course, Xiao Fei couldn't chase him away. As a good mistress of the house, she had to arrange a good dinner to entertain the elders. Of course, because of her conflicted feelings, she didn't want Ji Pingon to see Xiao Jin now. She wanted Xiao Jin to find an excuse not to come out. She wasn't a selfish mother. She just thought of what Xiao Jin said just now. Her biological mother could abandon her for wealth and glory, so she definitely wouldn't let her disturb everything now. If she found out, she was afraid that something would happen to Xiao Jin. However, she was someone who couldn't hide her thoughts. If she acted too strange when she saw Ji Pingon, it would definitely arouse his suspicion. She could only say that she wasn't feeling well and wanted to go to bed early. Mu Xiangshan found a topic at this time. Your girl is so good at reading faces. Let her help you see what's wrong with you. Xiao Fei, reading faces? This caught Ji Pingon's attention. Who knows how to read faces? Before Xiao Fei could stop him, Mu Xiangshan said, It's Xiao Jin. I don't know where that little girl learned how to read faces. When she saw me last night, she said that I had high blood pressure. She was right. I only found out that I had high blood pressure after the doctor checked me last night. I didn't have it before. Humph, it's all because of their family. Ji Pingon smiled and was a little puzzled. Isn't reading faces looking at one's fate? How can she tell if I have an illness? Mu Xiangshan waved his hand. How would I know? Since she's so good at reading faces, let her take a look at you. Fei Fei is just feeling unwell. She'll be fine after some rest. Xiao Jin happened to appear at the top floor of the hall and continued the conversation. Xiao Fei saw Xiao Jin and her eyelids twitched. Xiao Jin nodded at her. Fei Fei, go and rest. Xiao Fei was a little reluctant, but seeing how calm her daughter was, she went up. She also knew that if she stayed, she would be frightened and affect Xiao Jin's performance. Xiao Jin walked down and smiled at the two elders. Xiangshan, do you need me to read your friend's face? Mu Xiangshan pulled a long face. What friend? This is your grandpa Ji. Will you die if you call him? And you're calling me by my name? Don't you know how to call me? Xiao Jin waved his hand. Xiangshan, a promise is a promise. You're the one who didn't allow me to call you that, so you can't go back on your words. Mu Xiangshan. Ji Pingon was a little stunned by the way their family got along, but after a while, he reacted and laughed. It's good, it's good. When I was abroad, there were many families there who didn't call them parents, but called them by their names. They were quite approachable. We're not those old-fashioned people. If she likes to call us that, then let her be. Mu Xiangshan, haha. Ji Pingon was still a little interested in Xiao Jin. He felt that this girl had a kind of spiritual aura that couldn't be found in the younger generation. Yes, spiritual aura. It was very eye-catching. Jin, do you know how to read faces? Why don't you help me? Xiao Jin looked at Ji Pingon and nodded with a smile. Sure, not only do I know how to read faces, but I also know how to read fortunes. What do you want to know? Oh, fortune-telling? Ji Pingon was even more interested. Of course, he didn't believe that Xiao Jin really knew how to read fortunes. He was just teasing her. Chapter 177. Mu Xiangshan's sneer deepened. She can read fortunes? What a joke. Ji Pingon said, Why don't you tell me about my health first? Xiao Jin scanned Ji Pingon from head to toe and said, You're very healthy. You're no worse than a young man, but your immune system is weaker. Once you catch a cold, it's harder for you to recover quickly. Other than that, you're stronger than Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan was speechless. After all, he was an old man. He couldn't force his body to be strong. Ji Pingon nodded. He had just had a physical examination and there was nothing wrong with him. His mentality was one of the best among the older generation, so he didn't have to worry. As long as his mentality was good, his body was even better. Then you said you can read fortunes. What can you read? Can you read my face and tell me about my family's situation? Xiao Jin shook his head. I can read fortunes, but I won't tell others. You should know that the secrets of the heavens are not to be divulged. If you want to know some things, you have to pay a price. You're in good health, so there's no need for you to know anything else. Mu Xiangshan sneered. It's enough to tell a person's illness just by looking at their face. Do you really believe that she can read fortunes? How could a little girl like her be able to master it? Ji Pingon was even more intrigued. If I really want to know, what price do I have to pay? Xiao Jin, then it can only be a matter for your children and grandchildren. But the price is too high for you to pay. Ji Pingon said, Can I pay? Mu Xiangshan was furious. Ji Pingon, don't mess around. She's just a child. You're taking her seriously, and you still want to pay? Even if she wants to read your fortune, she'll do it for free. How dare she charge you? How dare she? Xiao Jin glanced at Mu Xiangshan and said, I won't charge you. You don't have anything for me to read. Even if this was a bluff, it was at least reassuring. At least he knew that nothing would happen to his family. Ji Pingon nodded. This girl from the Mu family was really interesting. And the more he looked at her, the more he felt that this girl was familiar. What part of it was familiar, but he couldn't remember. Not long after, Mu Qilian and Mu Qichu came back one after another. Mu Zhiming was a little late because of work, but after the examination of myocardial strain, he was forced by Qiao Fei to return home on time. If there was anything, he had to come home. At the same time, Mu Qichu began to learn how to take over Mu Zhiming's domestic affairs to help. Mu Qiji was temporarily abroad and also couldn't do anything else. Ji Pingon smiled faintly and said, This is a good thing. Zhiming dotes on his wife so much. If you can't stand it, you can also find a partner. Mu Xiangshan's wife passed away more than 10 years ago, and Mu Xiangshan didn't remarry since then. Mu Xiangshan rolled his eyes. Forget it. He's already so old, and he still has high blood pressure. Who knows when he'll die from anger? What's the point of looking for a wife? He's tired of living. The atmosphere at the dinner table was too suffocating. Muzilian and Muzichu both ran away after eating. Xiao Jin also left after eating slowly. The two old people had their own topics to talk about, and the young people didn't fit in. Chapter 178. Jin City, an unknown area, Jingchang Temple. It was really hard to find this place. Mama Lin and Mama Zhao spent some time asking around before they finally arrived at Jingchang Temple. The temple could be considered shabby, and there weren't even many monks. The only thing that could be considered magnificent was the path up the mountain in the temple. There was a very tall Buddha statue. It had a benevolent face and a solemn face. It looked as if it was compassionate to all living beings. Mama Lin and Mama Zhao felt a little pressured when they saw it for the first time. When they arrived at the temple, they saw an abbot standing in front of the temple with his hands clasped together and looking at them. He also had a benevolent face. When he looked at them, he bowed and said, Ba. Without waiting for Mama Zhao and Mama Lin's response, he sighed and said, This benefactor is quite good at finding trouble for others. Forget it. She's a variable, but she's also doing good. Mama Lin and Mama Zhao were confused. They didn't know what he was talking about. Then, they went to the temple and donated 1,000,000 yuan. The abbot accepted it and really gave them a jade pendant. It was a benevolent and pessimistic image. It looked like a good piece of jade. However, they felt like they were in a daze along the way. After they got the jade pendant and returned to the capital, they felt a little dazed. It was as if something was deceiving them. Although it felt strange, it also felt like a guide. After that, Lin Si sent a message to Xiao Jin, saying that they had gotten the jade pendant and had returned to America. When Xiao Jin saw the message, he smiled and stuffed a piece of candy into his mouth. The sweet taste was indeed delightful. The people of the future generation really made a lot of good things. She checked the official website and saw a piece of news. An unknown monk donated 1,000,000 yuan to a poor mountain village to build a school. It was a great merit. She smiled and thought to herself that she had to find a chance to meet this monk. In this world, there were very few powerful formation masters who could make her feel something. At that moment, her computer made a ding sound. There was business. Anonymous Buyer XX, a fortune-telling shop is so expensive. Are you a black shop? Today. So what do you want to know? Anonymous Buyer XX, do you know how old I am this year? If you can't, I'll report your shop. Today. My shop only has 3 business deals and your shop is in a hurry to ruin my business? Beware of retribution. Anonymous Buyer XX. On the other side of the computer, Jiang Hongbin's forehead was suddenly covered in sweat. Damn, how did she know that he was from another shop? He was from another fortune-telling shop. His business wasn't very good, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't because it was accurate, but because the fees were cheap. With a consultation fee of 10 yuan, it was possible to get some knowledge out of a few blind guesses. Therefore, it was a legitimate fortune-telling shop. Xiao Jin's shop wasn't anything special. However, it was too much to have comments on all three of his businesses. It's so expensive, yet you're still paying the bill. How shameless. Who didn't know that fortune-telling shops nowadays were all fake? Therefore, he came with the intention of picking a fight, but in the end, no. Perhaps his tone was too harsh. It did seem like he was deliberately looking for trouble. Nowadays, there were quite a number of such sellers. They would hire people to cause trouble for other shops. She must have guessed it. She didn't know which shop she was in. Anonymous Buyer XX. Hee, you're just spouting nonsense if you don't know? Anonymous Buyer XX. I asked you to guess my age. Why are you talking about other things? Today, you place an order. Anonymous Buyer XX. How can I place an order if I don't check first? Today, fine. Don't blame me for not warning you if you get retribution. Jiang Hongbin, 26 years old, male, customer service of, you're not allowed to be free shop. Jiang Hongbin cursed. Fuck you. Chapter 179. Jiang Hongbin's forehead was covered in sweat. He was indeed in the shop next to Xiao Jin's. That was because their shop was cheap and their business was good. But most of them were just to fool people. The customer service staff would read some books about horoscopes and make up some nonsense. Of course, they wouldn't be accurate. At least they could make people feel that there was something fishy about it. After all, in this line of work, it depended on how good one was at fooling people. But Jiang Hongbin had never seen anyone who could accurately predict his personal information through the internet. Information leak? Impossible. He definitely wouldn't use his own account to do this. It would be someone else's account. And Xiao Jin couldn't see his real information before he placed the order, let alone guess that it was him. But the truth was right in front of him. Even if there were surveillance cameras, it shouldn't be so ridiculous. Hacker? That was the only thing Jiang Hongbin could think of. Could it be that the other party had instantly hacked into his computer and obtained his personal information? Was that why he could be so clear? Hackers could be real, but people who relied on their own calculations couldn't be real. The other party knew his real information immediately. Jiang Hongbin had to admit that he was terrified. Anonymous Buyer XX. I'm sorry. You're a magnanimous person. Can you not lower yourself to my level? Anonymous Buyer XX. I just wanted to take a look. I didn't mean anything else. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'm really sorry. He was terrified very quickly. It was mainly because people on the internet these days had your personal information. It was too scary. Once it was leaked, he might face some harassment, especially when the other party was a hacker. Xiao Jin saw that the other party was terrified. He clicked his tongue lightly. Today, you didn't offend me. Why are you apologizing? Today, it's just that you have bad intentions. Are you afraid that I'll steal your business? Today, you're all liars. We're fundamentally different. Jiang Hongbin. The corner of his mouth twitched. Everyone was a liar. Why did he sound so righteous? Wasn't he just relying on the fact that he was a hacker and could hack into other people's computers? But even though he thought that, he didn't dare to type it out for the other party. Today, have you thought it through? If you have, I'll give you the money. I'll calculate it for you. Won't you know if I'm right? It's 100 yuan. The fees were so high that it was equivalent to 10 of his family's businesses. Especially during the holidays, they had discounts. Xiao Jin's family did not have that. Oh, it's currently in the discounted phase. Soon, it will actually return to the original price. Although he was somewhat unwilling, Jiang Hongbin still added the money. Of course, what he chose was a simple life calamity set meal. Although it was called life calamity, it was just to calculate the events in his life. Jiang Hongbin did not feel that he was unlucky. He wanted to see what other information the other party could dig out from his computer. The more detailed the information was, the more it proved that the other party had taken the information from his computer. Who knew that the other party didn't take the usual route at all? 3 seconds after he placed the order, he directly sent a message. Today, I advise you to go to the hospital to have your brain checked. These words sounded like a scolding. Zhang Hongbin immediately panicked. This was too much. I've already given him the money, yet he's still mocking me? He couldn't help but type, but Xiao Jin sent another message. Today. Oh, it may be a little ambiguous, but I seriously advise you to go to the hospital to have your brain checked. The later you delay it, the worse it will be. Zhang Hongbin. What was the meaning of this? Are you mocking me again and again? Chapter 180. Even if it was wrong of him to come looking for trouble first, why did he scold him all of a sudden? Zhang Hongbin didn't believe Xiao Jin's words, but when he thought about how he had paid 99 yuan for this, his heart ached a little. Whether or not the other party was a hacker was just his own imagination. He clearly didn't believe it, but he still stared at the sentence on the computer screen for a long time. If he wasn't scolding him, could it be that? How is that possible? He shuddered. Although he didn't like to exercise and sat in front of the computer every day, his body was considered healthy. How could the problem be in the brain? Thinking of this, Zhang Hongbin's lips trembled. In the end, he still doubtfully made an appointment to the hospital for a physical examination. The time was next week. It wasn't that he really believed Xiao Jin's words, but he originally planned to make an appointment for a physical examination. He just didn't think of checking his brain. Now, because of Xiao Jin's words, he specially added a routine check about the brain. It must be fake. How could the fortune-telling on the internet be real? If it was so accurate, why would the other party lie on the internet? Zhang Hongbin made a tisk sound on the computer, but he still turned it off. When this person came looking for trouble, Xiao Jin went to the other party's shop to take a look. It wasn't considered fortune-telling. The other party just used tarot cards to deceive people and used the mysterious knowledge on the internet to solve puzzles. In fact, it was useless. However, because the price was cheap, there were many people who did it. After reading the general idea, Xiao Jin smiled slightly. She knew that Zhang Hongbin wouldn't leave any messages, so she raised her hand and turned off the computer. She got up and opened the door. Xiao Fei, who was about to knock, was stunned. Ah, Jin, what a coincidence. Do you still remember Feiha's birthday banquet tonight? Xiao Jin nodded. I remember. Of course she remembered. Today happened to be Feng Fei's birthday. She agreed to the invitation, so naturally, she wouldn't forget. Xiao Fei nodded, but her expression was a little hesitant. Are you feeling unwell? Why don't we not go? To be honest, Xiao Fei wasn't willing to let Xiao Jin attend any public events. He was afraid that the Ji family would notice. After Xiao Jin told her about the matter that day, she went to check on the Ji family's information. There wasn't much information on the eldest son of the Ji family, but there were a few photos. She looked at them. To be honest, they didn't look alike. There might be some similarities between their eyebrows. From this, it could be seen that Xiao Jin looked more like her biological mother. Xiao Fei heaved a sigh of relief. She had gone abroad a long time ago. If he wasn't particularly familiar with her, it would be difficult for him to tell that they were related based on their appearance. What's more, the other party had a son on the surface. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. What if the other party suddenly returned to the country and met him or recognized him? Why would I feel uncomfortable? Xiao Jin smiled and looked at Xiao Fei. Fei, you don't have to worry about anything. Today is the Feng family's banquet. There's nothing else. It would be inappropriate if she didn't go. She just wanted to see how good the array master of the Feng family had become. Xiao Fei couldn't say more, so he could only nod. She had been thinking about this for the past 2 days, but she didn't tell Mu Zhenming. He was already suspicious. She had to tell Mu Zhenming sooner or later. Now, she could only take one step at a time. No matter what, she couldn't let Xiao Jin be recognized by the Ji family. Chapter 181. Feng Fei's parents had business cooperation with Mu Zhenming, so it was normal for the family to attend Feng Fei's birthday banquet. However, although Feng Fei belonged to the Feng family, she was not a core member of the younger generation, so the birthday banquet was not very grand. At least, the Feng family only sent a representative. As for the rest of the younger generation or elders, if they had a good relationship, they would come. If they did not have a good relationship, they would not come. The Feng family's network was complicated yet simple. Sitting in the car was Qiao Jin and the Mu family's twins. Other than them, there was Qiao Fei and Mu Jinming. Mu Xiangshan's relationship with the Feng family was not very close. He went out with other old friends, so he did not come. Although he quarreled with his son for more than a year, he did not lack his own social circle after returning to the country. Feng Fei's banquet was held in the most luxurious hotel in the capital. It was a building with dozens of floors. From the bottom to the top, the middle of the hall was open. There was a huge crystal palace chandelier hanging at the top, which was more than 10 meters long. Between the cups, everything showed the extravagance of the upper class. In such a place, walking was probably accompanied by the wind. There were many people at the banquet. Even though it was not unusual for the Feng concubine to be from the same branch, the Feng family had sent a special old man over. This old man was an existence that everyone in the Feng family respected. He was also known as the ancestor. He was the legend of the Feng family. Outsiders did not know what kind of legend he was, but they knew that the Feng family respected him very much. Today, he came to Feng Fei's banquet, giving Feng Fei enough face. It made the Feng Fei family, which was originally not valued, have more important uninvited people. Although everyone came for Aju. Compared with them, Mu Jinming's family was not very extraordinary. Although there was a lot of gossip in their family, everyone's target was now Aju. After entering the banquet hall, Mu Jinming took Xiao Fei to meet others, leaving the three children to play by themselves. Of course, he specifically asked Mu Zichu and Mu Jinming to look after Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin didn't care about what they thought at all. He just lowered his head and typed on WeChat. Mu Zilian stepped forward and glanced at her curiously. "Who are you messaging? You've been texting since we arrived." Qiao Jin didn't even raise his head. Song Yanqing, Mu Zilian. He was an existence he could not imagine. Goodbye. Others would never have imagined that the legendary and sickly young master of the Song family would be able to exchange WeChat messages with a girl like an ordinary person, especially when this person was his sister. Once again, he lamented how lucky Qiao Jin was to be able to hook up with Song Yanqing. Mu Zilian thought it was a good thing that Qiao Jin was obediently staying there and sending WeChat messages. He glanced at Mu Zichu and said, "Qiao Jin, just sit here and chat with Brother Yanqing. You're not allowed to run around, okay?" It was as if he was instructing a child. Qiao Jin nodded perfunctorily. "Got it, Qilian. If you want to meet your friend, go ahead." Many people knew Mu Zilian and the others at the Feng family's event. Many of their friends wanted to come over. However, Mu Zilian didn't want those people to meet Qiao Jin. He was still a little worried. "Then you stay here. You're not allowed to run around. Remember." Mu Zichu was a little impatient. He lowered his eyes. "Qiao Jin is 20 years old, not 2 years old. Mu Zilian. In my eyes, her IQ is only 2 years old. Qiao Jin." Chapter 182. She didn't care about the two of them. She lowered her head and chatted happily with Song Yanqing. It wasn't idle chatter. Instead, it was about important matters. It was about the Feng family. She couldn't tell others about the Feng family, but now she could tell Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing was very interested in these things. He naturally knew about the Feng family, not to mention that his aunt had married into the Feng family. However, the Feng family's tradition was somewhat opposite to the Song family's. Song Yin usually didn't want her son to have anything to do with the Feng family. Even his aunt's cousins were rarely seen. "Song Yanqing, can you tell me more about borrowing luck?" "Powerful kid. It's not that I can't. It's just that I'm at a banquet now, so it's not convenient. I'll call you tonight to tell you in detail." Song Yanqing, "Okay." Song Yanqing, "I've heard of the Feng family's Azu. He's a bit mysterious. Not only does their family have this Azu, but there's also a person called the Great Ancestor. He basically doesn't appear. No one knows where he came from. He should be the Feng family's ancestor." The ancestor he was talking about was the one with the highest seniority in the Feng family who was still alive. It wasn't far off. Qiao Jin knew who the Great Ancestor was, but there was no movement from the other party now. She wasn't interested in exploring for the time being. After chatting with Song Yanqing for a while, she felt someone in front of her. When she looked up, Feng Fei's graceful figure in an aqua blue haute couture dress appeared in front of her. She looked at Xiao Jin with a smile. Xiao Jin, you're here. I'm too busy. There are so many people today. I only saw you now. I'm really sorry. Xiao Jin turned off her phone and smiled faintly. Happy birthday. Simple and direct. Feng Fei paused for a moment and smiled again. Thank you. She wore this aqua blue haute couture dress. Her long hair fell like a waterfall, making her look even more ethereal. She was a goddess that everyone needed to look up to. However, after not seeing each other for a few days, Feng Fei's pupils shrank when she saw the current Xiao Jin. She knew what Xiao Jin was like in the past. Now that she looked at him again, why was he becoming more and more indescribably intelligent? Xiao Jin's hair had also grown longer. Compared to Feng Fei's straight hair, Xiao Jin's hair was like seaweed, delicate and curly. The last time she saw it, it wasn't so curly. Apart from that, her skin had become even whiter and more flawless. Now that he looked at it up close, it seemed to be glowing. That was an effect that no good skincare products could achieve. It was so good that it made Feng Fei jealous. Half a year ago, she was just an ordinary little girl. With such a huge change in her appearance, the Phoenix consort would never believe that there was nothing wrong with her. Her guess was very accurate. Unfortunately, Xiao Jin would not tell her the truth. With Feng Fei's arrival, she was the focus of attention today. Many people in the hall followed her figure and looked over. They saw Xiao Jin. At first glance, they did not recognize her. Later, someone found out that she came with the Mu family and knew that she was Xiao Jin, who had recently become a little famous in the upper-class circle. Of course, this fame was caused by her suicide. The Mu family was full of melodramatic events. First, it was the parents, then it was the children. However, looking at the situation now, the family seemed to be getting along well. Not to mention, was the daughter brought back by Madame Mu also so beautiful? This was a little surprising. Noticing that others were looking at her, Feng Fei faintly smiled. Xiao Jin, I still have something to do. I'll go and entertain the other guests first. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Chapter 183. Her tone was so gentle that people who didn't know her would think that she had a good relationship with Xiao Jin before. Even Musilian, who had noticed it, was a little surprised. He asked Musichu, brother, is Xiao Jin close to Feng Fei? Musichu lowered his eyes, and his eyes were a little gloomy. It was impossible. He knew very well that Xiao Jin and Feng Fei didn't know each other at all. If it was in private, it would be fine. Xiao Jin was just an adopted daughter of the Mu family. She didn't need to have too much contact with Xiao Jin at all. Now she made such a gesture to make others think that Xiao Jin was in her circle of friends. Was there a problem? He also had some doubts in his heart. Xiao Jin's clear eyes looked at Feng Fei as she walked away. The other party's aqua blue haute couture was sleeveless. Feng Fei's exposed skin was delicate and white. It was so smooth that it could be used in a shower gel commercial without any scars. Musilian sat over and asked curiously, what did Feng Fei say to you just now? Xiao Jin didn't answer directly. Instead, he said with a deeper meaning, she was paralyzed in the car accident some time ago. It's fine if she wasn't paralyzed, but now there is no scar on her body. TSK, a medical miracle. Just like when she saved Song Yanqing, a medical miracle. That's right. Musilian was also a little stunned. He looked at Feng Fei. Her back was indeed flawless. Feng Fei's paralysis could be said to be a rumor, but the car accident was absolutely true. Musichu even went to the hospital to see her. Now looking at Feng Fei again, she was very normal. There was no sign of injury. Was there something wrong with her car accident? Musilian doubted life. He wasn't the only one who had these doubts. The others also had these doubts. More and more people knew that Feng Fei had a serious accident. Lying in bed was not a joke. Who knew that it had only been a short while, but the other party was still alive and kicking, without any signs of being in a car accident. It was really unbelievable. Those who knew kept their mouths shut, while those who didn't know let their imaginations run wild. They couldn't think of anything more, so they could only attribute it to rumors. Perhaps it was only on the surface, but in reality, nothing major had happened. That was why he recovered so quickly. Azu is here. Azu. Is that Azu? Whoa, he does look impressive. Look at his aura and the bodyguards around him. He doesn't look like an old man at all. He looks much more energetic than many young people. There was a slight commotion at the banquet because the legendary Azu had appeared. The other party was not dressed in a suit. Instead, he was wearing a well-made tang suit. He had white hair and a youthful complexion. His face looked old, but in fact, if one looked closely, the flesh on his cheeks was very firm and plump. He did not look like a normal old man. It was as tight as an old man who had undergone a facelift. However, this was not an effect that could be achieved by facelifts. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. When he appeared, his expression was serious. He looked around the banquet. Whoever his gaze landed on would feel their scalp tingle. He was very imposing. Xiao Jin sat on the sofa next to him. There was someone in front of him, so he was lucky to hide from the other party's eyes. When Azu arrived, he did not say anything. It seemed that he had no interest in saying a few words of congratulations for Feng Feihe. Feng Feihe and her parents did not dare to neglect him. Her parents welcomed Azu to the main seat and sat down. When Xiao Jin saw Azu's figure, a strange smile appeared on his face. Chapter 184. She did not underestimate her karma. The Feng family began to have problems. Of course, they could not see this problem. Xiao Jin's karma had not been realized on Feng Feihe, and it had begun to invade the Feng family's fate. She should have died, but she was saved by someone. She was also saved when she was paralyzed in bed. Unfortunately, the other party did not know that this rescue was the beginning of the destruction of the Feng family's foundation. If the karma could not be appeased, it would also implicate the person who saved Feng Feihe. This person must be closely related to the Feng family's fate. So now when Xiao Jin saw Azu, there was a faint trace of gray aura between his eyebrows. After all, for the Feng family, the appearance of gray aura was already something wrong. This family's fate was borrowed. Once Xiao Jin's karma invaded, the consequences of the backlash would be much more serious. This was not something that could be smoothed out by borrowing luck. Now it was just gray aura. Karma was slowly invading. Once it expanded, the entire Feng family would not be able to escape decline. They now suspected Xiao Jin, and their suspicion was indeed correct. But if they wanted to attack Xiao Jin, it would speed up the process of decline. The other party now sat down, ignoring the fearful and respectful gazes of the people around him. He looked around, and his gaze wandered in the center of the scene. Obviously, he was looking for someone. When the crowd dispersed, he naturally saw Xiao Jin. Because Xiao Jin was staring at him. That gaze was faint and quiet like moonlight. It was as if he did not feel anything. About a few seconds later, he felt a little cold in his heart. He had never been stared at with such a gaze, so this target was immediately found. Azu looked at Xiao Jin, and his face gradually became gloomy. As Xiao Jin expected, he was an array master. His level was too low, and he could not see through Xiao Jin. Based on his experience, he thought that he would at least be able to sense something from everyone he saw. However, he couldn't sense anything from Xiao Jin. So after the gloominess, he was a little probing and sizing up. After reaching this position, no one would be so stupid. If he couldn't see the problem, it could only mean one of two things. Either it was too ordinary, or it was too mysterious and powerful. But to him, it was impossible for Xiao Jin to be ordinary. If Xiao Jin was really ordinary, he would be able to see something. But if he couldn't see anything, it would be a little strange. She was very young, like a little girl who stood aloof from worldly affairs. Azu's eyes gradually narrowed. Feng Feihe stayed by his side and whispered, "Azu, do you see anything?" Azu's eagle-like eyes looked at Feng Feihe, causing her body to tremble. "What can you tell?" Feng Feihe, her face was a little pale. She quickly lowered her head and didn't dare to speak again. In reality, he was already cursing madly in his heart. Damned old man, just you wait until she gets that kind of power. It wasn't as if she didn't have to pay a price for being cured. Thinking of the price of being saved, Feng Feihe's face was deathly pale. Her fingernails dug into her palms. It was probably because of the extreme pain, but she could still smile. When she looked at Xiao Jin again, his calm eyes happened to look over. When their eyes met, she saw a sea of clarity. This made her feel even more jealous. He had already done such a terrible thing. He had taken drugs and tried to commit suicide. But now, he could still look so calm. He was really good at pretending. Chapter 185. Of course, Xiao Jin could see the jealousy in Feng Feihe's eyes. And because he could see it, he clicked his tongue. Her rank was too low. In the past, she wouldn't even live for 3 days. With this performance, it was no wonder that she was not valued in the Feng family. If it didn't affect the Feng family's fortune and make them suspect that something was wrong, Xiao Jin felt that the 2 array masters of the Feng family probably didn't want to save Feng Feihe. Maybe they even thought that Feng Feihe was a hindrance. Of course, if they knew the truth in the end, they would really feel that Feng Feihe's existence was a hindrance. Feng Feihe's birthday banquet went well. Although Aju was staring at Xiao Jin, he couldn't let others see it openly. It was just that there was a high probability that he would send someone to monitor him later, like the spirit group. Xiao Jin didn't care at all. After the banquet, when everyone returned home, Xiao Jin saw Mu Zhenming supporting Xiao Fei. Her face was red, and she began to talk nonsense. She even began to giggle. Mu Zhenming hugged her very tightly, and his face was a little gloomy. When they got in the car, he let Xiao Fei sit in the back, let Muzilian and Xiao Jin watch her, and let Muzichu sit in the front passenger seat. Muzichu frowned a little. Mom drank? Mu Zhenming got in the car and began to fasten his seatbelt. I didn't pay attention when we were talking. She took a glass of wine and thought it was juice. Who knew that it was mixed with alcohol? She drank it and became like this. Xiao Fei couldn't drink. Her alcohol tolerance was very poor. Basically, she would blush after eating liqueur chocolate. Not to mention drinking directly. Xiao Jin sat in the back and stared at Xiao Fei silently. He saw Xiao Fei lying on Muzilian's shoulder, happily cooking a duck. She even struggled and said, "I'm not drunk." At the same time, he was counting happily. She pointed at Mu Zhenming with a serious expression. Ignoring the abnormal blush on her face, she said, "A duck." Mu Zhenming. He then pointed at Muzichu. 2 ducks. He then pointed at Muzilian. 3 ducks. Its delirious eyes fell on Xiao Jin. It seemed to be at a loss. 4. You don't seem to be a duckling. Xiao Jin's expression was serious. He held Xiao Fei's hand and asked seriously, Fei, are you crazy? Everyone, don't you know who's the crazy one in the family? Xiao Fei misheard and let go of Xiao Jin's hand. I'm not drunk. Drunk people are all like this. Xiao Jin looked at Mu Zhenming. There seems to be something wrong with Fei's brain. Send her to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Mu Zhenming was speechless. You're like this when you're drunk. Are you crazy? Xiao Jin. Oh, Mu Zhenming. He drove in silence. She was just saying it casually. Who knew that after Xiao Fei let go of her hand, she suddenly started crying. Hubby, what should I do? Jean is the granddaughter of Old Master Ji. I don't dare to tell anyone. Burp. The 3 Mu father and son. Xiao Jin. The car suddenly fell into a strange silence. Mu Zhenming suddenly braked the car. He turned around and looked at Xiao Fei in disbelief. Fei, what did you say? Muzilian was so shocked that a goose egg could be stuffed in his mouth. Muzichu was also a little uneasy. Xiao Fei didn't know what she said at all. She started crying after shouting that sentence. After crying for a while, she burped and then fell asleep in Muzilian's arms. Tonight was destined to not be peaceful. Chapter 186. After returning home, Xiao Jin attended an emergency meeting that did not include Xiao Fei. It was mainly because she was drunk. After Mu Zhenming brought her back to her room and settled her down, he came downstairs and said that he wanted to talk to them about this. Even if Xiao Fei was drunk, she would not speak nonsense. Since she said this, it meant that it was true. Xiao Jin also heard it. No wonder Mu Zhenming had been feeling that Xiao Fei was preoccupied these past 2 days. It was also a reason why she did not come out for dinner when Old Master Ji was around that day. Mu Zhenming sat at the head of the table and pinched the bridge of his nose with his fingers. He looked at Xiao Jin and asked, Did you hear what your mother said in the car? Xiao Jin nodded and said, I heard it. I know what she said. I was the one who told her. Mu Zhenming. Mu Chilian originally wanted to drink some water to calm down his shock after hearing the news, but this time, he almost spat out the water. In the end, he accidentally choked and started coughing violently. Muzichu looked at Xiao Jin and was a little confused. You knew? How did you know? Xiao Jin had been in the Mu family for so long and had not interacted much with others. Moreover, it had been so many years. When she was adopted by Xiao Fei, she was just a baby. How could she know about her biological parents? How did she know? Xiao Jin raised his hand and rubbed his thumb. I got it from fortune-telling. Everyone, they felt that this conversation could not continue. Muzilian felt that he could not drink his saliva anymore. Otherwise, he might choke to death. Mu Zhiming rubbed his brows again and said to Xiao Jin nicely, Xiao Jin, you can't speak carelessly. There's no evidence for this kind of thing. It's just a rumor. Besides, it's Grandpa Ji. Grandpa Ji and Grandpa Ji are very good friends. If he heard this, he would be unhappy. I didn't say anything wrong. Xiao Jin only concealed his true identity, but he wouldn't hide anything about such trivial matters. He casually repeated what he had said to Xiao Jin that day. Thus, the entire Mu clan once again fell into a deathly silence. For this kind of thing, if you say that it's a fortune teller, it's too unconvincing. Mu Zhiming looked at Xiao Jin and reminded him, the Ji family will do a full body checkup every year. If there's anything wrong with that child, the Ji family would have discovered it long ago. No matter how powerful Xiao Jin's biological mother was, it was impossible for her to hide the truth from a child who was not related to her by blood. In this way, Xiao Jin's suggestion of swapping would not be valid. Xiao Jin smiled. I didn't say that the child wasn't his. Muzilian. Fuck, I'm interested now. It's too complicated. As soon as he finished speaking, Muzichu knocked him on the head. At this moment, Mu Xiangshan came back in his overcoat. Even though he was walking with a walking stick, it was just for show. When he came back to the living room, he saw that his family members were all gathered together, which was a rare sight. They even came back earlier than him. Mu Xiangshan narrowed his eyes. What are you all doing here? Why are all of you here? Mu Zhiming was very busy. Except for the day when Mu Xiangshan came back, it was basically impossible for him to appear at the Mu clan's dinner table on time. Although they were attending a banquet tonight, they were all gathered together after coming back. There was only tea on the table. It was obvious that they were chatting. Mu Xiangshan's face instantly darkened. You're talking behind my back. Everyone. Chapter 187. In the silence, Muzilian whispered to Muzichu, Grandpa is a little overconfident. Muzichu. Mu Xiangshan walked over and glared at everyone. If you have something to say it in front of me. Why do you have to say it behind my back? Are you ashamed? Everyone. Mu Zhiming rubbed his temples again. He felt physically and mentally exhausted in this house. Dad, he sighed softly, as if he was carrying too much burden. The topic we're discussing has nothing to do with you. Mu Xiangshan straightened his neck. I don't believe it. Muzilian agreed happily. Grandpa, it's really not. If we're talking about you, we've already talked about it in the past. Mu Xiangshan's face darkened. Mu Zhiming waved at him. Just in time. Dad, sit down. We're talking about Xiao Jin. We need you to know. Mu Xiangshan walked over to Mu Zhiming. What's the matter? She failed the exam? Everyone. Xiao Jin smiled slowly. She hasn't taken the exam yet. Mu Zhiming gave the main seat to Mu Xiangshan. After Mu Xiangshan sat down, he glanced at Xiao Jin from the corner of his eyes. Looking at you, I knew you wouldn't pass. How embarrassing. Mu Zhiming sat down beside him again and said helplessly, Dad. Mu Xiangshan didn't like Xiao Jin no matter how he looked at her, but Mu Zhiming couldn't do anything about it. Xiao Jin's matter wasn't a small matter, especially when it involved Old Master Ji. After weighing the pros and cons, Mu Zhiming told Mu Xiangshan about it. Isn't this nonsense? Mu Xiangshan's eyes widened when he heard this. He slammed the table. There's no evidence. How can you prove it? He then looked at Xiao Jin. How can you be the daughter of the Ji family? Ji Qiue's wife gave birth to a son. Ji Qiue was Ji Pinggan's eldest son and Xiao Jin's biological father. Of course, Mu Xiangshan would not believe such a bizarre thing. Xiao Jin took a sip of water and said calmly, I'm telling you, it's up to you whether you believe me or not. I don't care if you want to do a test to verify my identity. I'm just informing you of a possible hidden danger. After all, Fei doesn't want me to go back. Hidden danger? Muzichu caught the key point in her words. If you are really the daughter of the Ji family, you can recognize your ancestors, but you can also continue to live with us. How is that a hidden danger? Xiao Jin did not say anything. Mu Jinming and Mu Xiangshan's faces sank at the same time. Muzilian was a little curious. What kind of expression is that? My brother is right. If Xiao Jin is really the daughter of the Ji family, she can go back and recognize them. After all, they are her biological parents, aren't they? What are you doing? Mu Xiangshan scolded Muzilian. Don't talk nonsense here. He stood up and looked at Xiao Jin. What kind of place is the Ji family? It has nothing to do with you at all. Don't have such messy thoughts. They only have one son. He looked quite angry and turned to leave with a flick of his sleeves. Mu Jinming looked at his stunned son and then at Xiao Jin. He sighed. Grandpa didn't mean that. If Xiao Jin is really the daughter of the Ji family, she can't go back. Muzilian and his brother were still puzzled. Why? How could there be a family where the biological daughter couldn't go back? Chapter 188. Mu Jinming frowned slightly and said simply, the juniors of the Ji family have been fighting fiercely recently. His words were implicit. Muzilian and Muzichu were in this circle after all, so they understood a little. Although the Ji family was a family with a strong foundation, the internal power struggle was equally fierce. There were even people who secretly tampered with things. Muzichu and the others had heard some news. Ji Chiyue's son, the boy brought back by Xiao Jin's biological mother, was one of the most influential people in the Ji family now. The competition between the younger generation was very fierce. Ji Chiyue's second wife, a mistress, had already caused a lot of criticism. If Xiao Jin's matter was exposed, that woman had actually brought back Ji Chiyue's biological son back then. She must have used some tricks. What was going on wasn't something that others could imagine. It wasn't wise for Xiao Jin to get involved with the Ji family now. This was because Xiao Jin had just said that the boy was Ji Chiyue's biological son, but he wasn't Xiao Jin's biological mother's biological son. If the biological mother abandoned Xiao Jin and brought the boy back, there were many reasons behind this. Muzilian was also deep in thought. That's indeed not suitable for Xiao Jin to go back. We can't tell anyone about this. After he said this, he looked excited and gossipy. I want to know how Xiao Jin's biological mother did it. She sounded like a powerful person. After all, in a family like the Ji family that valued status, being able to rise as a mistress was simply a skill. Of course, that was Xiao Jin's biological mother. Xiao Jin himself was innocent. They didn't have any dislike for Xiao Jin. Furthermore, he had been abandoned at birth. There was nothing worse than this. If he hadn't met Xiao Fei, who knew what his life would have been like? This biological mother was really ruthless. They all looked at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin just shook his head. I've only divined so much for now. I'll only know more when I meet this woman. After all, there were no clues. It was already heaven-defying to be able to tell their relationship. If they wanted to know more, they had to see the real person and use an array formation to divine. Only then could they know the inside door. The three of them unconsciously realized that all this was based on Xiao Jin's divination. She spoke with certainty, but there was no evidence. They couldn't verify whether she was the daughter of the Ji family or not. What if she was talking nonsense? Mu Jinming changed the topic. When did you learn to do fortune-telling? Xiao Jin. Recently, self-taught on the internet. Everyone, there was no way to chat. Mu Jinming even had the illusion that he was a mentally retarded person if he were to seriously analyze the situation for her. Perhaps Xiao Fei was right. After all, she was in the hospital and her brain was a little stimulated. She might not have recovered yet. As an adoptive father, he couldn't be too harsh on this adopted daughter. Thus, he nodded and lost interest in asking. He only said, I'll go in and take care of your mother. After he left, Muzilian directly said, whether it's true or not, we'll know if Uncle Ji's wife looks like Xiao Jin. If they were biological, they would at least look alike, right? Musilian had seen Ji Chiue before. To be honest, he didn't think he looked like Xiao Jin. Now, they could only see what his wife looked like. Chapter 189. The Mu family and the Ji family only got to know each other in recent years, and Ji Chiue's first wife had accompanied her son abroad for many years. Therefore, these juniors had never seen her before and naturally had no memory of her. They didn't know if they looked alike. Musichu frowned and said, "Don't cause trouble. This matter couldn't be known by the Ji family." Musilian was a restless person. Musilian rolled his eyes. "I'm just looking for a chance to take a look. Who knows what I want to do? Besides, I might not be able to see her. It is said that his wife only comes back during the new year. We might not be able to see her even if we visit her during the new year." He was telling the truth. If they wanted to see her, they had to see if they had the luck. Xiao Jin stood up and said, "Qilian, Chi-Chu, I just said it to let you know. There is no other meaning." She paused for a moment before continuing, "You are my family." She was not good at saying such warm words. She just wanted to reassure them. Musilian was still a little awkward at this moment. Not biological. After saying that, he went back to his room. Musichu also looked at Xiao Jin and said, "You make your own decisions." Xiao Jin pursed her lips and smiled. The people of the Mu family were all open-minded. Even if they had any doubts, they would be considerate and not ask too much. It made it convenient for her to do many things. After Xiao Jin returned to her room, she still remembered that she had promised Song Yanqing. She called him and told him about the Feng family. The Feng family, Song Yanqing on the other side of the phone muttered and revealed some information that he had known before. "My father had contact with them in the early years and said that their family was indeed strange. Now it seems that everything has a reason. It was because of other people's luck that they could reproduce and grow to this day." Xiao Jin asked, "I remember that you have an aunt who married into the Feng family?" "Yes." Song Yanqing answered her naturally. At the same time, he didn't avoid telling her the real reason. "The business marriage is secondary. My aunt took a fancy to the uncle of the Feng family. Since that's the case, I want to know if the matter of borrowing luck will affect her?"
Yes.
Xiao Jian also answered straightforwardly. She married into the Feng family and was tainted with the Feng family's fortune. If there is a problem with the clan's fortune, she will naturally be affected. However, this kind of thing can't be said for sure. If she is blessed and is a kind-hearted person, it won't have too much of an impact on her. The clan's fate is most deeply implicated in the bloodline. Outsiders who have no connection with the Feng family will at most be enveloped by the Feng family's fate. The consequences will depend on themselves. For example, Song Yanqing's aunt had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. She married into the Feng family, and she had nothing to do with the Feng family in terms of bloodline. If something happened to the clan's fortune, it would ruin the good news that the Feng family's descendants enjoyed. If this aunt was an outsider, the ones who would have an accident when the clan's fortune was broken would only be those who had evil intentions, such as Feng Feihe and Azu. It had nothing to do with outsiders. The premise was that they really didn't borrow the Feng family's fate to do anything. Otherwise, the karma would still be settled. Who let Xiao Jin's karma be too strong? Song Yanqing understood. He thought for a while and didn't say too much to Xiao Jin on this matter. It was probably inappropriate. However, the matter of borrowing luck made Song Yanqing vigilant. The Feng family and the Song family had indeed cooperated closely recently. It seemed that it was necessary to distinguish clearly. Chapter 190. The next day, it was time for Xiao Jin to take the exam. The professional exam and the basic exam. Xiao Jin had been studying for so long. Needless to say, the professional exam was not a problem. With Song Yanqing's tutoring, the basic exam was not a problem. The school was a key school. Xiao Jin's personal requirements were not so strict. It was fine as long as it was good enough. After all, she did not expect to do well in the exam to be of much use to her. Her academic performance used to be above average. Later, it slipped and became bad. Now, it was good enough to be above average. Of course, there were a lot of excellent students in this school. They also had a lot of certificates. They had even started to study for a master's degree in advance to participate in various competitions. Even Musilian and Musichu had to go abroad to participate in some competition finals. They were not at the same level as Xiao Jin, who was a salted fish. Xiao Jin did not care. She was even happy to be relaxed. After the exam, Xiao Jin received a call from Song Yanqing. Have you finished the exam? As Xiao Jin sipped on her milk tea, she listened to the low and deep voice on the other end of the line. Just in time. I'm in a restaurant near your school. Do you want to come over for a meal? Sure. Xiao Jin answered very directly. After asking for the address, she went to Song Yanqing. Anyway, the food she ate with Song Yanqing tasted very good. She arrived at a restaurant in Sakura Island. When she entered the private room, Xiao Jin saw that not only was Song Yanqing sitting in the private room, but there was also an unfamiliar face. With a handsome and clean face and a sunny and cheerful feeling, he was like the boy next door. His hair was flaxen curls. The fluffy feeling added a bit of childishness to him, showing a bit of cuteness. His eyes were very bright, especially when he saw Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. Song Yanqing had already raised his head naturally and explained to her, my aunt's son, who married into the Feng family, is my cousin, Feng Qianin. They had just talked about the other party's mother yesterday, and now their son was here? Xiao Jin sat down and nodded in greeting. Hello. Song Yanqing added. Qianin just came back from abroad. Xiao Jin's relationship with the Feng family was relatively ordinary, but it was not to the extent that he disliked everyone in the Feng family. This Feng Qianin was still okay. The gray aura between his eyebrows was not heavy. Obviously, he was affected, but it was not to the extent of serious harm. Then this person was not the same type as Feng Feihe. The man looked at Xiao Jin as if he was looking at a wonder. Your brother Yanqing's friends? Song Yanqing spoke very naturally. His light eyes slowly landed on Phoenix Grace. Xiao Jin grew up in China. He's not as open as you. Watch your words. Wow. Phoenix Qianin pursed her lips and acted coquettishly towards Song Yanqing. Isn't it because I haven't seen any other friends around brother Yanqing? When he smiled, he even had dimples on his cheeks. Xiao Jin could not help but glance at Phoenix Qianin. In a place like the Feng family, was he pretending to have such a temperament, or was it real? She could not see a person with a hard fate, so she had to guess. Phoenix Qianin belonged to those with a hard fate, which meant that he was a person with a good fate. Song Yanqing handed the menu to Xiao Jin and let her order what she liked. He then looked at Phoenix Qianin. I heard that you have a girlfriend? Yes. Phoenix Qianin's eyes turned. But she's not my girlfriend. I'm still chasing her. I just met her. You definitely haven't heard of her. She's a female celebrity called Fanjin. Xiao Jin. So this was involved. Chapter 191. Fanjin was one of the female celebrities who came to her for fortune-telling. In the end, she found out that she was cheated and left the industry sadly. After reading the news, she probably went abroad to relax. Logically speaking, Fanjin shouldn't know Feng Qianin. Now that Feng Qianin mentioned it, it could only mean that the two met abroad. It wasn't too long ago. Xiao Jin didn't show that he knew her, but Song Yanqing didn't know. Female celebrity? He frowned slightly. It seemed that he wasn't very optimistic. Feng Qianin knew what his cousin was thinking. He immediately sat up straight and said, Brother, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, Fanjin isn't like other female celebrities. Her path is clean and there are no messy things. If that was the case, my mother wouldn't have agreed to let me pursue her. Although the Feng family's reputation wasn't very good, it was impossible for their outstanding bloodline to pursue a female celebrity with a bad reputation. Although many of the Feng family's children and grandchildren were involved with many female celebrities, Song Yanqing didn't have much interaction with the entertainment industry, but he had heard a lot of messy things in it. There were too few innocent female celebrities who could reach this stage of fame without messy things. Hearing Feng Qianin say this, Song Yanqing's voice was calm. As long as you like it. Feng Qianin suddenly smiled very brightly. When he smiled, his eyes seemed to have starlight. It gave people a very sweet feeling. It was as sweet as honey. Xiao Jin pursed his lips and smiled. It wasn't that he was bewitched by the other party's smile, but he felt that such a boy was really rare. Feng Qianin noticed Xiao Jin's smile and looked at Xiao Jin with bright eyes. Little sister, how old are you this year? How do you know my brother? Song Yanqing, 20 years old, younger than you. I'm still in my second year of university. Feng Qianin. I'm sorry, little sister. He thought that someone who could play with his brother would at least be of the same age. Xiaojin, Feng Qianan was 2 years younger than Song Yanqing. He was 23 years old this year. As if he wanted to make up for it, Phoenix Qianan looked at Xiaojin and said, "You are so beautiful." He wasn't trying to flatter her on purpose. At the very least, everyone who saw Xiaojin could say that she was beautiful. There was no trace of makeup on her face. He didn't know if she was born without makeup, but at least her skin was really good. It was delicate and white, and could be called flawless jade, just like his brother's. Feng Qianan's praise was so sweet that it was easy to make people burst with joy. However, Xiaojin was not as excited as he had imagined. He even said with a serious expression, "I know." She was very clear about the fact that she was beautiful. Phoenix Qianan. When Song Yanqing saw that Phoenix Qianan was about to lose control of her expression, he actually let out a chuckle. When Phoenix Grace saw the smile on Song Yanqing's face, he opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Song Yanqing quickly noticed his gaffe. The smile on his lips softened a little. He turned his head and slightly lowered his head to look at Xiaojin. "What do you like to eat? Have you decided?" His tone was a little gentler than the others. Xiaojin didn't remember eating Sakura cuisine. She didn't like raw food, so she ordered a few fruit sushi and eel rolls. Other than that, Xiaojin had been very quiet. Song Yanqing and Feng Qianan talked about some trivial things. He suddenly came back. He heard about Song Yanqing's incident some time ago, and specially came to see him. If it weren't for the fact that the news of Song Yanqing's accident was kept secret, he would have rushed back. Chapter 192. Phoenix Qianan was a talkative person. Most of the time, he was the one who spoke while Song Yanqing listened. Phoenix Qianan only thought that Song Yanqing was like this, but when he talked to Xiaojin, Xiaojin responded lazily and occasionally used words to brush him off. He was just like his brother. He now knew why the other party could get along well with his cousin. The eel rolls tasted good, and the fruit sushi was also very delicious. Xiaojin ate happily. After eating, Song Yanqing asked someone to send Phoenix Qianan away. He and Xiaojin talked alone. 2 days ago, Xiaojin mentioned something. Song Yanqing gave him a clear answer at this time. "It's not appropriate for me to go to the spirit group." Xiaojin made a sound of and turned to look at him. He did not directly ask why. Song Yanqing slowly explained, "I learned some information about the spirit group. Several families are involved. The Song family originally did not get involved in these things. If I join the spirit group, people will suspect that I want to get involved. They will be on guard against me in advance. It will be somewhat disadvantageous to your plan." Xiaojin nodded. "That's true." Song Yanqing smiled slowly. "But it doesn't matter. I have arranged for people in the spirit group. When I get any clues, you will know." Xiaojin thought for a moment. "You said that the Song family does not participate in these things. Then how do you know about the spirit group?" "Some things are just not involved, so they ignore the clues. My father also learned about the spirit group. After I learned about it, he transferred the information in his hands to me. In the past, he did not let Song Yanqing know about these things. Now that he knew, it was not a big deal to participate." Xiaojin suddenly understood. Song Yanqing glanced at her. "Is today's sushi delicious?" "Xiaojin, delicious." Song Yanqing pursed his lips and smiled. "You can come more often if you like." "Okay, I'll come here more often when I earn some money," Wang Yao said. The food was delicious, and the price was also very good. A single meal was equivalent to half a year's worth of expenses for an ordinary family. For the current Xiaojin, it was too outrageous. Song Yanqing laughed. "If you want to eat, I can bring you here anytime." "That won't do. There are some things that need to be clarified." Xiaojin shook his head. "I can't take advantage of you. I'll treat you another day. I'll make a lot of money soon." Song Yanqing's expression became even gentler. "Okay." He didn't ask how Xiaojin was going to make a lot of money. Presumably, she had her own considerations. At this moment, Xiaojin's expression froze. "Put me down in front. I have something to do." Song Yanqing was going to take her home, and the car was still on the way. Song Yanqing found it a little strange, but he didn't ask much. He only said, "Okay." He asked the driver to stop on the street in front and watched Xiao Jin get out of the car. Looking at her disappearing back view, Song Yanqing fell into deep thought. The dim light from the street lamps outside the car window refracted in, casting an arc on his perfect jawline. Occasionally, the sound of laughter and chatter from passers-by drifted past the car window. Song Yanqing felt that Xiao Jin's departure just now had a deeper meaning. In the dim light, the man was silent for a long time before he finally said, "Stop here for a while." The driver replied respectfully, "Okay, young master." There were many expensive cars in the capital, but now, they saw one parked on the side of the road, and passers-by took a few photos as they passed by. Song Yanqing raised his hand and looked at the watch on his wrist. It was 6:30. His break time was almost up. Chapter 193. The reason why Xiao Jin got out of the car was because she sensed danger. This danger was none other than the fact that a month was up and her backlash was coming. Under such circumstances, she couldn't predict what would happen to her. Song Yanqing's life providence was unstable to begin with. It was best not to get close to him. Otherwise, not only would it easily cause an accident, but both of them would be easily implicated. The intuition of danger was very strong and mysterious. In fact, Xiao Jin couldn't sense where the danger was. After all, this was her backlash. If she knew everything, the punishment for her resurrection would be too easy. The coldness that seeped into her bones had already begun to invade Xiao Jin's body. The streets were extremely lively. Passers-by laughed as they walked past. It was a bustling scene. In such an atmosphere, there were occasional dark corners. It was as if there were ferocious beasts that were waiting for the right time to tear Xiao Jin apart and devour her. Xiao Jin had accumulated a few cadaveric auras and demonized spirit seeds. She wasn't afraid of today's danger. However, when danger came, she needed to react quickly. She stood on the streets and attracted the attention of many people because of her beautiful appearance. She was dressed casually today. She had seaweed-like long hair, exquisite facial features, and porcelain-white skin. Her eyes seemed to glow as she stood there without any makeup. She really looked like a character who had walked out of an anime. A few passers-by walked past and couldn't help but take out their phones to secretly take photos of Xiao Jin. There were both men and women. When it came to the matter of wanting to look good, all humans were actually the same. Under normal circumstances, normal people would admire a beautiful person. Xiao Jin scanned her surroundings. The chances of something happening on the streets weren't high. However, with her backlash, anything could happen. She wanted to avoid it. After all, she was only a mortal. Even if she was stabbed, the chances of her dying were very high. Although the chances of others hurting her weren't high, she had to guard against sudden accidents. Kacha. It was a very soft sound. The streets were very noisy. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have been heard. But Xiao Jin heard it. The voice came out of nowhere. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and she turned around without hesitation in the next second. Bang! A huge billboard came crashing down from where she had been standing. It almost brushed past Xiao Jin's body as it fell. The chill was enough to make one's scalp tingle. The huge accident caused the passers-by to scream. Xiao Jin suddenly turned around, and in less than a second, the billboard in front of her fell into two halves. Just the strength of the steel bars, if it had hit her directly, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even the debris from the fall splashed onto her body. Because the speed was too fast, a piece of debris even brushed against her exposed arm, leaving a sharp wound. Dark red blood instantly gushed out of the wound. Even so, her expression remained calm. He only covered his arm and narrowed his eyes. It was not over yet. This scene was like a scene from a foreign blockbuster, Final Destination. The danger was undetectable. Everything happened reasonably and naturally, so no one could see any problems with it. If Xiao Jin had reacted a little slower, she wouldn't have been able to dodge it. "Miss, your hand is bleeding. Are you okay?" A passerby girl came forward in a panic. At the same time, she hurriedly took out a pack of tissues and band-aids from her bag and handed them to Xiao Jin. Chapter 194. In the face of the passerby's kindness, Xiao Jin pursed her lips and smiled. Thank you. The passerby was bewitched by her smile and blushed. At the same time, she asked worriedly, Do you need me to send you to the hospital? It was too dangerous just now. Many people gathered around. Some of them clearly saw that if Xiao Jin hadn't suddenly turned around, she would have been hit by the billboard. It was simply too terrifying. The reason was simple. She had been resurrected in an unreasonable way, so karma would make her disappear in a reasonable way. Just like how accidents would happen to ordinary people. No one knew that these things were predestined. No need, I'm fine. Xiao Jin took the tissue and band-aid from the passerby and looked at the girl again with a bright smile. Thank you. You're a good person. So, good karma will come. She turned around and quickly left. If she was here, she might have implicated others because this kind of thing couldn't be said to be targeted only at her. If she bumped into an unlucky person who was about to die, it was very likely that they would suffer together. The passerby watched her leave in a daze. She had almost been hit by the billboard just now. As passers-by, they were all scared. But this girl didn't have any reaction at all. But she was really beautiful. Her skin was really good up close. She looked like a porcelain doll. As Xiao Jin walked, she put the band-aid that the passerby had given her on her wrist. The wound wasn't big. After wiping it with the tissue and applying the band-aid, the bleeding stopped. However, there were still people following her in secret. Naturally, it was the spirit group. Seeing that Xiao Jin had almost been hit by the billboard, the two people who were watching her were stunned. Her precognitive ability is so strong? That was a fatal danger. Just for a second? That's not right. If she knew there was danger, why was she still there? The two people were suspicious, but they continued to follow Xiao Jin. The place where the billboard had fallen had attracted a lot of attention. Because it happened to be outside a shop, the shop owner was almost scared to death. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The young lady standing under the billboard was too lucky. As Xiao Jin walked forward, the sense of danger lingered around her like a shadow. There was an even greater danger. This feeling of not being able to test was actually not very good, but Xiao Jin did not seem to be too flustered. He had experienced similar things several times, so he had a little experience. When she reached a crossroad, she knew that it was very dangerous. Because of the dense traffic here, accidents were more likely to happen. But sometimes, Xiao Jin's intuition told him to go there because he knew it was more dangerous. If he could avoid it, then so be it. I can't avoid it. Oh, it's just another death, not to mention that I can still use death energy at the crucial moment. When she was walking on the side of the road, an arrogant roar of a car came from behind her. The sound was so loud that it attracted people's attention. She turned her head and saw a dazzling white supercar speeding over, but it stopped in front of Xiao Jin in an instant. Seeing Xiao Jin, a handsome face wearing sunglasses appeared in the sports car. The other party had an evil smile on his face. Alone? Clearly, this was a rich second-generation heir. A rich second-generation heir who was ready to pick up girls. The other party's appearance was also not bad. Coupled with the high-end shirt he was wearing and his appearance, it was enough to make the hearts of many girls flutter. Chapter 195. Xiao Jin stared at the other party, but the smile at the corner of her mouth was a little cold. Why did you follow me? What? The other party was stunned for a moment. He saw Xiao Jin just now because he saw that Xiao Jin was beautiful, a type he had never seen before. He wanted to hunt for a beauty, so he took the initiative to chase after her. Otherwise, with his identity, there were plenty of women following him, so he didn't have to find a random one on the side of the road. A rich second generation driving a sports car to hit on a beauty. This scene attracted a lot of attention, and many people looked over. Let's get to know each other. My name is... Before he finished speaking, Xiao Jin's eyes showed a trace of pity. It's too late. Squeak, boom, vroom. A few hurried honks and screeching brakes sounded. Xiao Jin was originally standing on the side of the road, and the traffic opposite her was clearly red. But suddenly a car rushed out and ran the red light as if it had lost control. That wasn't all. A large truck drove straight from the green light, and its speed wasn't slow. Seeing that it couldn't dodge in time, it subconsciously turned the steering wheel. Bang! The two cars collided in an instant. All of this happened in a short 2 seconds, and no one knew that such an accident would happen. Amid the shocking screams of the passers-by, the collision caused a chain reaction. Another large truck sped out at the same time and was forced to change direction, implicating a few cars at the same time. The steering wheels of the cars were all messed up, but they all seemed to be rushing in the same direction. It was the direction of Xiao Jin. The car parked in front of Xiao Jin was the rich second-generation Air sports car. When he saw the big truck coming toward him, his pupils constricted. However, it was too late for him to drive away because the two cars were connected. The car that ran the red light and was hit by the big truck was brought over, blocking his way forward. Moreover, all of this happened too quickly. In just a few seconds, the large truck went straight for him. Bang! A tragic car accident occurred at the scene. The large truck and several cars collided directly with the sports car. At that moment, the passers-by were almost scared out of their wits. They saw the white sports car being smashed into pieces with their own eyes. With such a tragic degree, even if the person in the car was a god, he wouldn't be able to survive, and there was a girl at the intersection next to the car. A few passers-by happened to pass by in that direction, and Xiao Jin had already run in the other direction when the large truck rushed over. The large truck happened suddenly, and 1 or 2 seconds was enough for Xiao Jin to react to the extreme. More importantly, there was an unlucky person in front of her to block. She was so fast that she almost brushed against the truck's tires and fell to the ground. Bang! The truck and the car crashed into the wall before coming to a stop. The entire front of the truck was smashed into pieces, and the driver inside was knocked unconscious. However, it was obvious that he would be fine. Because of the sudden braking, the truck hit the white sports car and was slowed down. When it crashed into the wall, it happened to stop and reduce the impact. Xiao Jin fell next to the large truck, and the split door of the sports car smashed toward her. She became calmer when she was in extreme danger. While others couldn't see, she moved her fingers, and the door was forced to smash to the side. The sense of danger disappeared. She lay on the ground, panting a little, but she was relieved. She lay on the ground and looked at the sports car that had been completely flattened at this time from the corner of her eyes. The people inside definitely couldn't survive. They were the people from the Feng family. Chapter 196. There were earth-shattering screams all around, as well as the sound of countless people crying in fear. The scene of the car accident was a mess. The white sports car was crushed without a trace. However, Xiao Ji knew that only one member of the Feng family had an accident. The others might have suffered minor injuries, but it did not affect them too much. The accident was targeted at her. Who knew that a member of the Feng family would suddenly appear? This was really unstoppable. The Feng family had recently accepted her karma. If this person did not follow, he could still be free for a while. The aura of death on his body was extremely heavy. The karma erosion had just begun. He should not have been affected so much. It could only mean that this person was not a kind person. His hands were stained with human lives, and most of the backlash was forcefully suppressed after borrowing the Feng family's luck. As a result, as soon as he came into contact with Xiao Jin, the family's luck lost its protection and died a tragic death. She spat out a mouthful of dust. When she fell to the ground just now, she still had some impact on her body. The backlash of karma was really ruthless. It blinded her perception and tried to kill her. Although her own karma was extremely strong, she would not be careless when she suffered the backlash. After all, being reborn was against the heavens. The front of the truck was blocked by a car. She was lying in the middle. She could not use her strength to directly lift the car. Otherwise, she would be on the headlines. She was lying on her stomach at this time. When she turned her head, she could still see the remains of the man's body. The car was already in such a state, and he had died a tragic death. The upper half of his body that was still attached to his head was still staring at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin just watched calmly. Now that she saw the evil dead on the other party's body, even she wanted to sneer. Is he dead? Oh my god. The car is completely cracked. Woo-woo-woo. I will have psychological trauma for the rest of my life. What is that? Is that a leg? Ugh. There is also a beautiful girl. I saw it. A beautiful girl was also hit. It's too tragic. It's really unfortunate. People were discussing. Some people collapsed and screamed. Some people cried on the spot. Some people were so frightened by the tragic scene that they lost their minds. This was probably a psychological trauma for many people. There were a few drivers in the car. They opened the door and walked out, trembling. They were only dizzy and slightly injured. To be chosen as the accident to kill Xiao Jin, they were more or less unlucky recently. The drivers were scared out of their wits. They did not expect such a tragic thing to happen. There was a female driver in the car that was blocking Xiao Jin's way. Her car door was deformed, and she could not squeeze out. She sat in the car and sobbed. Xiao Jin raised her hand and patted her car door. She sighed and shouted, "Help!" His voice was weak, and if one listened carefully, it sounded a little perfunctory. The female driver screamed in fright. When she came to her senses and saw Xiao Jin, she let out an "ah" and shouted excitedly, "Someone is injured here. She's still alive." Fortunately, it was just a car accident. She did not lose her mind. Of course, the premise was that she did not see the man's body. When the crowd heard the cry for help, they moved over. There were already traffic police nearby. They were probably having a heart attack. It had been a long time since they saw such a big car accident. Xiao Jin lay there for about half an hour before a tow truck came to drag the deformed car out. Xiao Jin was successfully rescued. Of course, as a normal girl who saw a man's body, she was naturally scared out of her wits. Chapter 197. In fact, Xiao Jin could feel everything. About 10 minutes later, she felt a familiar figure approaching. "How is she?" As usual, the elegant harp voice, gentle tone, and every word was powerful, but at this moment, it seemed a little anxious. There was a faint gasp in the crowd. Obviously, they were shocked by his appearance. Then, Xiao Jin felt that her arm was held by someone. She fainted. It should be the shock of the car accident. We are now sending the injured to the hospital for examination. Song Yanqing was silent for a moment. Aze squeezed in from the back and saw Song Yanqing in the crowd. He was frightened. "Young master, you go first." Then, he saw that it was Xiao Jin who was being carried on the stretcher. He was shocked. How could Miss Qiao? Obviously, in his mind, Miss Qiao would be fine. But Song Yanqing had already caused a stir. There was no other reason than that he was too beautiful. His tall and straight figure, his elegant bearing, and his handsome face were all gathered on one person. Even the passers-by who came to watch the fun did not dare to even think of getting close to him. They always felt that he had a special kind of arrogance, and if they got closer, it would be sullying him. At this moment, he frowned and looked at the girl lying on the hospital bed. There was obvious worry between his eyebrows. He wished that someone could smooth out the wrinkles between his eyebrows. Song Yanqing felt that something was wrong with Xiao Jin, but Xiao Jin walked fast after all. He stopped and waited for a while until the vibration of the billboard came. He seemed to feel it and was a little worried. He ordered the driver to follow him. In fact, it had only been 10 minutes since Xiao Jin left him. Such a terrible thing happened in a few minutes. He even regretted that he did not follow him earlier. In his mind, Xiao Jin would be fine. Now that something happened to her, he was a little caught off guard. He held Xiao Jin's hand and used his ability to transmit a belief. She would be fine. He was a spiritualist of words. Not only could he speak, but he could also make his thoughts come true if he was capable enough. Recently, he had been practicing with some small objects, and he had mastered them very quickly. However, just as the thought passed through his mind, he suddenly felt an itch in his palm. Xiao Jin tapped his palm when no one was looking, indicating that he was fine. Song Yanqing paused for a moment, then reacted quickly. His heart immediately relaxed, and his eyebrows flattened. He let go of Xiao Jin's hand. Aze didn't know what was going on. He was still trying to persuade Song Yanqing. "Young master, let's go out first. I have something urgent to tell you." The person who had the accident was a little unexpected. "I will watch Miss Qiao go to the hospital." Song Yanqing nodded and withdrew from the crowd. Others even automatically opened a path for him. They just spread out unconsciously. After getting into the car, of course, he would not go back. Instead, he would accompany Xiao Jin to the hospital. This happened too strangely. As soon as Aze got into the car, his expression was a little ugly. Young master, a person died in the car accident just now. Do you know who that person is? Song Yanqing raised his eyes slightly. Who? Aze sighed and said, the third son of the second son of the Feng family, Feng Yibing. Although he was born outside, he was very favored by his father. Relying on the fact that his father was a member of the Feng family, he did a lot of evil outside. He killed a few people and was suppressed by the Feng family. Now that he died like this, the Feng family will probably go crazy. Hearing this, Song Yanqing's eyes suddenly became cold. Chapter 198. Xiao Jin told him about borrowing luck. He knew about the Feng family's tricks. Now the Feng family was dead? After all, Feng Qianan was his cousin. There was nothing wrong with the Song family looking after him. Song Yanqing didn't know much about the other Feng family members, but he knew that some of the younger generation of the Feng family did terrible things, but they were suppressed by the Feng family. Even Song Shirin cursed a few words in front of him, saying that the Feng family would be finished sooner or later. It was incredible that no one had an accident for so many years. Now a younger generation died. After being explained by Xiao Jin, he knew the reason why the Feng family was strange. Song Yanqing's first thought was that Feng Yibing and Xiao Jin were at the same car accident scene. Feng Yibing was dead, but she was fine. Would the Feng family think that there was something strange? No, he couldn't let the Feng family trouble Xiao Jin. Under certain circumstances, Song Yanqing was also cold. He wouldn't take a second look at the trash of the Feng family. Others were not worth mentioning to him. Song Yanqing completely calmed down. Let people deal with the car accident scene and keep an eye on the Feng family. If they contact Xiao Jin, let me know at any time. Adan was a little confused, but he still nodded. Okay, young master, let's go to the hospital now? Song Yanqing nodded. Let's go together. I'm worried about Xiao Jin. He didn't say that Xiao Jin was fine. Adan also understood and immediately asked the driver to go to the hospital with the ambulance. After going to the hospital, Xiao Jin woke up. After a round of examination, Xiao Jin was really fine. He could even be discharged from the hospital immediately. Song Yanqing stayed with her and booked a separate VIP ward for her, but Xiao Jin didn't agree. I haven't informed Fei Fei yet. Sigh. She will cry eventually. It's better to cry at home. Song Yanqing. The people in the hospital originally wanted to inform her family to come over. Seeing that she was fine and that she had her own request, they didn't inform the Mu family for the time being. The Mu family didn't get the news so quickly. After all, no one informed them of the sudden car accident. Xiao Jin looked at Song Yanqing's appearance and smiled. I'm really fine. Take me back. Song Yanqing thought for a moment. Okay. Sitting in the car, Song Yanqing. He thought for a moment and then asked Xiao Jin. What's going on? Xiao Jin answered vaguely. Just a small matter. Why would Feng Yibing appear there? That dead man is Feng Yibing? Because she was dead, she didn't bother to find out who he was. Song Yanqing nodded and explained to her. Her father is the Feng family's Feng Yingbai, second in rank. Her mother is a mistress. Xiao Jin did not care who it was. This matter had nothing to do with her. During the backfire, she was blinded by karma. It was impossible for her to calculate that there was a member of the Feng family who was about to die there. Since he was dead, it meant that he deserved to die. She had a lot of debts, and she became the first member of the Feng family to be sacrificed. This became a breakthrough. If there was a first, there would be a second. Even if Xiao Jin didn't care, the Feng family had to pay back what they owed others. With the death of Feng Yibing, the gap in the family's luck became more and more obvious. It couldn't be repaired. The two array masters were probably flying into a rage right now. It had nothing to do with her, but as long as she was there, the Feng family would keep an eye on her. It would be troublesome during this time. She clicked her tongue softly. Song Yanqing suddenly touched her wound with a band-aid with his finger. His eyes were deep. Does it hurt? Chapter 199. Xiao Jin was a little puzzled. What's so painful about this? It was just a scratch on her arm. This wound was basically nothing to Xiao Jin. At least it was better than losing her life. Atong glanced at Xiao Jin in the rearview mirror and thought that she was too straightforward. She should at least show the weakness of a woman so that our young master has a reason to comfort her. Now there was no reason to comfort her. Sigh. He sighed like a bodyguard. Song Yanqing pursed his lips and showed a trace of hesitation. Will a similar situation happen again? He still noticed something. Because he had experienced something related to Qiao Jin, he could roughly sense that something was wrong with her. Since her suicide, her personality didn't match her previous experiences. Ordinary people might not be able to see the problem, but now that Song Yanqing had begun to come into contact with this world, he vaguely felt something. Qiao Jin paused for a moment, nodded, and then shook her head. It shouldn't be a big problem. This was the first time that the death aura and the demonic spirit seed she had accumulated weren't enough. If she continued to increase, the backlash wouldn't have much effect on her. She was just testing it today. Sure enough, after being blinded, her intuition was at least still there. Her reaction was also quite fast. The most important thing was that there was someone who wanted to die. It wasn't until they got home that Mu Zhiming learned about Xiao Jin's car accident because of the news from the Feng family. It wasn't the Feng family who said it, but Feng Yibing's death was now known by the entire upper-class circle. The key was that she died without a complete corpse. Then there was another girl who didn't have any major problems. Mu Zhiming asked around and almost knew that it was Qiao Jin. He knew some things about the Feng family and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Feng Fei, he had a car accident not long ago, and now Feng Yibing was dead. Recently, the Feng family, Mu Zhiming still informed the family. Xiao Fei cried when she heard the news. When she was about to call Qiao Jin had already arrived home. She came in through the door. When everyone in the house saw Qiao Jin, they were quickly stunned. Heavens, Jin, are you okay? Are you all right? Xiao Fei rushed over. Seeing Qiao Jin come back safely, tears fell out of his eyes. I'm fine. Qiao Jin put his arm around her shoulder and said earnestly, Fei, if I had something to do, would I still be able to come back now? Are you really all right? Didn't you get into a car accident? Xiao Fei raised his head and looked at Qiao Jin from head to toe. Seeing that Qiao Jin was all right, he let out a sigh of relief. Then, she saw the wound on Qiao Jin's arm and became agitated again. Aren't you fine? Qiao Jin, does that count? Xiao Fei, there are wounds. Oh my God. Qiao Jin, the men behind them calmed down. Seeing that Qiao Jin was indeed fine, they knew that there was nothing serious. Xiao Fei was naturally worried and couldn't stop crying. How long have you been fine? Why did this happen again? In the back hall, Mu Xiangshan slowly walked out and said with a sullen face, We don't know how she is. Why didn't you bring her back to sit down? Why did you let her stand outside? Xiao Fei finally reacted and quickly grabbed Qiao Jin's hand. Let's go in and sit down first. You must be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Qiao Jin. Chapter 200. After entering the house, Mu Zhiming looked Qiao Jin up and down. Are you sure you're okay? Qiao Jin was very calm. If not, I should be in the hospital now, not back. Mu Zhiming nodded and asked, Who sent you back? Qiao Jin. Song Yanqing. Everyone. Mu Xiangshan's eyes widened. I'm hallucinating. Who? Who's Song Yanqing? It wasn't that he didn't know who Song Yanqing was, but it was hard for him to imagine that Qiao Jin would know Song Yanqing. Musichu and the others were able to take it. Musilian said calmly, Grandpa, it's Song Yanqing, the young master of the Song family, the one with a weak body. Don't be surprised. This is nothing. Our Qiao Jin is very capable. Mu Xiangshan, how did she get close to Song Yanqing? Xiao Fei was much more tolerant than before. He sent you back. Why didn't you invite him over? That's so embarrassing. Xiao Jin said naturally, It's okay. He should be resting now. When he's free, he'll come over. Xiao Jin knew that if Song Yanqing came to the Mu family, it would probably cause a commotion. But now wasn't the time. Moreover, Song Yanqing didn't mention coming to the Mu family as a guest. He sent Xiao Jin home and said with a smile, I'll visit Uncle and Annie another day. Go home and rest first. Goodbye, Xiao Jin. Then, the two of them said goodbye. Xiao Fei, on the other hand, was much more relieved. If young Master Song really came, she would feel embarrassed. Mu Jinming looked at Xiao Jin with a heavy gaze. The man who had an accident today was Feng Yibing of the Feng family? Xiao Jin looked at him and smiled. I don't know. I don't know him. She should not have known Feng Yibing in the first place. Mu Xiangshan couldn't care less about being shocked by Song Yanqing. His face changed a little. What happened? The person who died in the car accident with Xiao Jin was from the Feng family? Mu Jinming nodded solemnly. I haven't received any specific news from the Feng family yet, but Feng Yongshi called and asked me. I guess this matter is a little troublesome. The Feng family is dead? Muzilian and Muzichu looked at each other. They had heard of Feng Yibing's name, but they had never seen her before. The other party was different from Feng Feihe. She was favored by the Feng family. She was usually arrogant and did not interact with them. However, he had heard quite a lot of bad things about him. Muzilian curled his lips and sneered. Isn't it better if he dies? He should have died 1,000 times over for what he did. Mu Jinming's eyes were cold. Shut up. Even if he deserved to die, he couldn't say it out loud. With the Feng family's character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance, they would never let Muzilian have an easy time. Mu Xiangshan also frowned. The Feng family is in trouble, but what does this have to do with Xiao Jin? Xiao Jin also looked innocent. Yes, what does this have to do with me? I don't even know him. Xiao Fei was also a little worried. Why do you make it sound so scary? What's wrong with the Feng family? It's not because of Jin's car accident. Mu Jinming asked her, what is the specific cause of the car accident? Xiao Jin, a car ran the red light. As a result, the big truck couldn't avoid it and crashed into it. It came in the direction where I was standing. At that time, Feng Yibing's car was also parked there. I was lucky and dodged quickly. I only scratched my skin a little. He didn't dodge in the car. What does this have to do with me? I don't even know him. If others wanted to die quickly, could she stop them? However, Mu Jinming and Mu Xiangshan's expressions did not look relaxed. Chapter 201. They weren't worried for no reason. After cooperating with the Feng family, they knew a little about the Feng family's style of doing things. The current Feng family was regarded as a wealthy family in the capital. Unfortunately, among the many families, the Feng family was really petty. This wasn't referring to business, but the character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. It was fine if they didn't offend the Feng family. If they offended the Feng family, they would be forced to a dead end. Many families in the capital were destroyed by the Feng family. Even if it was just some basic friction, they would suffer some revenge. On the surface, of course, the Feng family still looked generous. In private, everyone knew the Feng family's style of doing things. Feng Yibing's death indeed had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. But Xiao Jin was the party involved in the car accident, but she was fine. If the Feng family knew, it was hard not to think too much. Now, everyone's expressions were a little dignified. Only Xiao Fei, who didn't understand this, was a little confused. Jin had a car accident. She must still be a little scared. Let her go in and rest. Mu Jinming nodded to Xiao Jin and said, your mother is right. You go up and rest first. We will deal with the rest. Xiao Jin said softly, I'm not afraid, and I'll be fine. You can rest assured. She was referring to the Feng family, but Mu Jinming and the others thought that Xiao Jin just didn't want them to worry about her being scared in a car accident. After Xiao Fei accompanied Xiao Jin up, Muzichu said directly, this has nothing to do with Xiao Jin. It's impossible for the Feng family not to understand. Mu Xiangshan had a meaningful look. It's hard to say. Mu Jinming said, the surveillance video of the scene needs to be found. Get someone to check it now. Let me see how the car accident happened. His intuition told him that something was wrong. So that night, several people in the Mu family were a little restless. However, their worries were not unreasonable. There was nothing strange in the surveillance video, so there was no need to hide. They found it very clearly. But after watching the car accident, Mu Jinming felt that this matter probably wouldn't end like this. In the video, Feng Yibing was clearly captured. At that time, he stopped the car and talked to Xiao Jin. In the end, the car accident happened within a few seconds. No one would have thought of such an accident, but if Feng Yibing hadn't stopped, normal people would not think of pushing the responsibility to others. But it was hard to say for the group of people in the Feng family. Feng Yibing was Feng Yingbai's only son. Mu Zhiming had heard of this person in the business world. He was sinister and vicious. Now that his son was dead, he would definitely go crazy. Feng Yingbai's family had no contact with the Mu family, and this matter could not be traced back to the Mu family. But early the next morning, Mu Zhiming received a call from Feng Yongshi. Feng Yongshi said with some hesitation on the phone, "My second brother watched the video of the accident and found that Yibing seemed to be talking to your daughter in the video. Did they know each other before?" Mu Zhiming's eyes darkened. Of course not. Xiao Jin said last night that she didn't know why Feng Yibing was talking to her. Feng Yongshi sighed. "Zhiming, this call was not my intention, but my second brother wants to see your adopted daughter," Mu Zhiming said directly. Xiao Jin was frightened after the car accident, so it's not convenient for her to see people. Moreover, the car accident has nothing to do with Xiao Jin. No one wants such an accident to happen. Express my condolences to your second brother. Feng Yongshi, he sneered. Feng Yingbai had his eyes on the Mu family. How could this matter be settled? Chapter 202. As the Mu family expected, when they received the news of Feng Yibing's car accident that night, the Feng family went crazy. Not only Feng Yingbai. Azu was even more shocked. Someone from the Feng family died. Someone died. This was even more terrifying than the accident itself. For so many years, it was a luxury for the younger generation of the Feng family to get sick. Their family's fate and the Feng family's bloodline were well aware. Now that a younger generation of the Feng family died, this was enough to make the Feng family furious. Not to mention that the one who died was Feng Yibing. Feng Yingbai almost went crazy on the spot when he found out. He only had this one son, and it was a very tragic way of dying. He died without an intact body. Feng Yibing's mother was so shocked by the news that she fainted and didn't wake up until the next day. The Feng family's power couldn't be underestimated. They figured out everything within an hour of the car accident. It was indeed an accident, but it was too much of an accident. They couldn't find evidence of intentional murder, but there was a fatal problem in the surveillance video. Xiao Jin was there. Azu of the Feng family was suspicious of Xiao Jin. Now she saw a younger generation and Xiao Jin appear at the scene of a car accident at the same time. The younger generation of the Feng family died, but she heard that nothing happened. Other people might not understand, but Azu felt cold after seeing the video. She definitely did something. This matter was related to her. Azu gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. The impact of this incident on the Feng family was too great. Feng Yongshi's phone call was just the beginning. After Feng Yibing's mother woke up and learned about this, she cried and shouted for people to bring Xiao Jin over. She had to ask face to face what was going on. It was clear in the video that if Feng Yibing hadn't stopped to talk to Xiao Jin, he wouldn't have died. Others might think that this couldn't be blamed on Xiao Jin. It could only be said that her son was unlucky. But Feng Yibing's mother didn't think so. She felt that this girl killed her son. If it weren't for this jinx, Feng Yibing wouldn't have died. Before they even met, Feng Yibing's mother already hated Xiao Jin to the core. Even if she was innocent, if Feng Yibing had not stopped, none of this would have happened. Feng Yingbai naturally thought so too. Their Feng family would never look for a reason from themselves. When Xiao Jin woke up in the morning, Mu Zhiming had already gone to the company. Xiao Fei didn't know what was going to happen. Seeing that Xiao Jin woke up, he asked her with concern, "Did you sleep well last night, Jin?" Xiao Jin nodded. Mu Xiangshan sat on the sofa and looked at the news on his phone. He glanced at Xiao Jin but didn't say anything. "You were in a car accident. Mom was worried that you didn't have a good rest. The school has already applied for leave for you. You can go when you want." Xiao Jin shook his head. "The exam just ended. I'm fine. I'll go tomorrow." "Xiao Fei, that won't do." Before she finished speaking, a servant hurried in from outside. She looked a little flustered. "Madam, there are people from the Feng family outside. They want Miss to go to the Feng family." Xiao Fei's expression changed slightly. "Feng family? Why is the Feng family looking for us?" She knew that Feng Yibing died yesterday, but she didn't think much about it. "The car accident has nothing to do with our families, Jean. The servant just came to report. She didn't know anything." Mu Xiangshan's face sank. He stood up. "Let them in." Ask them what they want to do. Why do they need to go to the Feng family? Chapter 203. The servant nodded and went out to bring him in. Xiao Jin just blinked quietly. Feng Yibing talked to me yesterday. Maybe they saw the video and wanted to ask about it. Xiao Fei was a little flustered. Feng Yibing talked to you before he died? Didn't you not know each other? Xiao Jin looked at her. Of course not. He stopped because he wanted to know my name. Hit on me. Xiao Fei. She could only say, this is too unlucky. But the car accident had nothing to do with her daughter. Who knew that such a tragic car accident would happen? The servant brought him in. It was only the housekeeper of Feng Yingbai's family who came. The Feng family was a big family. Except for some core members, of course, not everyone lived in the Feng family. Everyone had their own villa. This time, it was the housekeeper of Feng Yingbai's villa who came to the Mu family. The other party was quite arrogant. When he came in, his tone was a little rude. My master wants to invite Miss Chow to go over and find out about the situation of the car accident. We also saw the video last night. Mu Xiangshan stood up. When he faced the housekeeper, he had the style of the Feng family when he was in charge of the Mu family. His voice was stern. We are very sorry about what happened to your son. We can only advise you to restrain your grief. We have already asked about the situation in the video. Jin and your son didn't know each other. Last night, he stopped the car to ask for Jin's name. With just one sentence, the accident happened. No one wants to see it. The housekeeper looked at Mu Xiangshan with a slightly gloomy expression. As for what happened, Miss Chow needs to come forward and explain it to our master. The young master is our master's only son. Now that something like this has happened, he just wants to know it clearly and avoid some unpleasant scenes from happening. Mr. Mu, you should understand, right? Xiao Fei felt a little uncomfortable when he heard the other party's tone. We've already explained everything clearly. Jin and your son don't know each other. No one wanted this to happen. Mr. Feng asked our Jin to go over because of this. What else do you want to know? The butler's gaze landed on Xiao Jin, who was standing behind her. His eyes were like an eagle's as he said, I'm just here to pass on a message. The choice lies with Miss Chow herself. I only hope that you can understand a man who can do anything when he's in extreme grief. Xiao Fei's face turned red. Are you here to threaten us? She stood in front of Xiao Jin and said, I won't let Jin go with you today. If you think we're at fault, then let the police be the judge. Yesterday's incident was already an accident. Even the police didn't come to our door to look for Jin. What's going on with you? Xiao Fei didn't know much about the Feng family. He only felt that the other party was too aggressive. Mu Xiangshan glanced at Xiao Fei and sighed silently. Xiao Jin pulled Xiao Fei's sleeve and smiled. Fei, forget it. I'll go with him. Mr. Feng is a middle-aged man. It's unacceptable that his beloved son met with such an accident. Young Master Feng said something to me last night. I'll explain it in person. Maybe Mr. Feng will find it easier to accept. The butler's face twitched. Miss Chow is much more sensible than your wife. Is that so? Xiao Jin's smile became gentler. But you're quite insensible. Chapter 204. There was a hint of coldness in her words, but unfortunately, the housekeeper didn't hear it. He just thought that Xiao Jin knew what to do, but his face immediately stiffened because of her words. Mu Xiangshan frowned and looked at Xiao Jin. Are you going? Xiao Jin nodded. Mu Xiangshan thought for a moment and put his crutch on the ground. I'll go with you. No need. Xiao Jin refused lightly. You wait for me at home with Fei. I'll come back after explaining to Mr. Feng. It won't take too long. What kind of place was the Feng family? For the current Xiao Jin, it was a den of devils. Mu Xiangshan was worried about letting her go alone, but of course, he couldn't show it too obviously. He just raised his head and asked again. It's not appropriate to go without an adult, right? Xiao Jin smiled. I'm already an adult. Can't I handle such a small matter? Xiangshan, you should rest at home. Be careful of high blood pressure. Mu Xiangshan. She had no sense of propriety in front of outsiders. Xiao Jin nodded to the housekeeper. Mu Xiangshan's face was gloomy. This is my Mu family's child. I hope that after explaining clearly, you can send her back safely. The housekeeper smiled. Of course, after explaining clearly, Miss Chow will naturally be sent back. Chow Fei was still a little worried and only watched worriedly as Chow Jin left with the housekeeper. She didn't quite understand the angle of this matter. After being worried, she still called Mu Jinming. Mu Jinming was shocked when he heard that Xiao Jian went to the Feng family. Why did you let her go? After the incident this morning, the Feng family went crazy. Many people went to Feng Yingbai's place. He came to the company to deal with this matter, but now Xiao Jin actually took the initiative to go? This is too ridiculous. Now that Feng Yingbai's son is dead, there's already something wrong. Xiao Jin is still going there. He originally wanted to say that the Feng family had always been unreasonable, but when he thought of his wife's worry, he held back. He only said in a deep voice, I will rush to the Feng family now. Don't worry. Xiao Jin will be fine. At least, this matter had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. The Feng family might find trouble with the Mu family, but nothing should happen to Xiao Jin. He was not afraid of trouble, but he felt that he could not ignore it. He put on his suit jacket and asked his assistant to arrange a car for him. He then drove to the Feng family. Xiao Jin might have arrived a long time ago. He could only hope that Xiao Jin was just asking. On the way to the Feng family, the housekeeper and Xiao Jin sat in the last row. His face was gloomy, and he only saw Xiao Jin curiously looking out the window with a faint smile on her lips. He felt incomparable anger in his heart. The young master was dead, yet she could still smile? Miss Chiao, now that the deceased is in front of you, isn't it inappropriate for you to have this expression? What expression? Your young master and I don't know each other. We have nothing to do with each other. Xiao Jin looked at him strangely. I didn't kill him. Housekeeper, I didn't kill him. How could she say such a thing? The housekeeper's face became more and more gloomy. He only felt that this adopted daughter of the Mu family really didn't understand the ways of the world. When she arrived at the Feng family, she would know how powerful she was. Would the Mu family really think that this matter had nothing to do with Xiao Jin and simply let it go? Who told Xiao Jin to appear there at that time? The anger of Feng Yingbai's family needed someone to calm it down. The Mu family was finished. Chapter 205. When they arrived outside the Feng family villa, the housekeeper brought people in. At this time, the black and white cloth of the funeral had been hung in the villa, and the whole villa showed a suffocating and depressing atmosphere. What had already become a fact, no one could change it. Feng Yibing's body was transported back to the Feng family villa last night, and now the coffin was placed in the Feng family's hall. Many people received the news and came to mourn early in the morning. Because this was no small matter, many people from the Feng family came, including many of the Feng family's children. Some people put on a fake smile and didn't look sad at all, and even came to watch the show. After all, the Feng family's network was here, and the competition was so fierce. One death was one less, and they weren't real brothers. Even real brothers might not be sad for someone like Feng Yibing. At the very least, she was pretending to be sad. When Xiao Jin got out of the car and appeared, he attracted the attention of some people. The first was the Feng family. Many people in the Feng family saw the surveillance video last night. Because of the family's fortune, everyone paid attention. Now that they saw Xiao Jin appear here, they knew that Feng Yingbai asked people to bring him. Compared to the sadness of others, her expression was calm, and no sadness could be seen at all. Of course, the dead Feng Yibing had nothing to do with her. So what was there to be sad about? She stood on the ground, and the housekeeper whispered, "Please," but it seemed like a storm was about to come. She walked into the hall of Feng Yingbai's house. The hall had been decorated to look like a mourning hall. Feng Yibing's body was not cold yet, and they arranged it quickly. There were many people sitting and standing around. Most of the people sitting were old, and most of the people standing were young. The only difference was that they all looked very outstanding. They were all the children of the Feng family who were related to Feng Yingbai. When those people looked over at the same time, ordinary people might feel nervous. In front of Feng Yibing's coffin, a woman in a black dress was crying. From her expression, it could be seen that she was really desperate. Someone next to her comforted her in a low voice, and it wasn't difficult to guess her identity. The housekeeper said in the crowd, "Madam, Miss Chow is here. The woman who was weeping suddenly stopped crying. In an instant, she turned her head. When she saw Xiao Jin, her red eyes revealed undisguised extreme hatred. You're here. Her voice was choked with sobs, but it sounded like she was gnashing her teeth. She was old, but it could be seen that she had taken good care of herself. At this moment, her beautiful face was just a little more haggard. Everyone in the morning hall turned to look at this scene. Some people were waiting to watch a good show. Some of the men from the Feng family looked at Xiao Jin with amazement. She could probably understand why Feng Yibing had stopped in front of her. She did have the capital for Feng Yibing to strike up a conversation. Xiao Jin glanced at Feng Yibing's portrait in the morning hall, and then looked at her without saying anything. Seeing her like this, Feng Yibing's mother hated her even more. She sent off her son. Her son was already lying inside, and even the body was pieced together. This girl who should have died with him was so calm, as if everything had nothing to do with her. How could she have the face to think that everything had nothing to do with her? She couldn't help but suddenly stand up and walk quickly toward Xiao Jin. She raised her hand as if she wanted to slap Xiao Jin. But before her hand fell, Xiao Jin easily grabbed her wrist. Chapter 206. Xiao Jin's eyes turned from calm to cold. I understand the pain of losing your child, but that's not a reason for you to go crazy. You want to hit me? You're really crazy. Feng Yingbai's wife was not the legal wife, but because the one who died was her son, Feng Yingbai's first wife did not come forward and let her cry here. After being an outside wife for a long time, her brain was probably not normal. Li Wujin, Feng Yibing's mother, looked at Xiao Jin and was particularly agitated. My son died because of you? She still wanted to move her hand, but it was held tightly by Xiao Jin. When she wanted to move her other hand, Xiao Jin pushed her away. He didn't use much strength, and she was only pushed back a little. Otherwise, how could she withstand Xiao Jin's push? Xiao Jin said slowly, your son died because of me. Do you believe it yourself? I almost lost my life. What does he have to do with me? The girl's voice was light, but each word was like a bell, with a sense of emptiness that made people feel comfortable. The people in the room were watching a good show. They were even more surprised that Xiao Jin dared to resist the Feng family. Even if Feng Yibing's parents were angry now, shouldn't she endure it? Did she want something to happen to the Mu family? Li Wujin trembled with anger. What did my son say to you before he died? Wasn't it you who led him there? If he didn't stop in front of you, he wouldn't have died. You jinx. Now that her son was gone, her position in the Feng family and the favor she had in front of Feng Yingbai might disappear with him. And it was her own son. This made her heart collapse. Naturally, she could say anything at this moment. Xiao Jin's eyes instantly froze. I came here just because Mr. Feng asked me to explain what happened last night. I don't know your son, so there's nothing else to talk about. You can go crazy, but if you dare to talk nonsense again, do you not want your tongue? What a joke. She had lived for so many years. Who dared to say such nonsense in front of her? Others were afraid of the Feng family, but was she afraid? Her direct threat shocked Li Wujin. The people of the Feng family looked at each other. They never thought that the adopted daughter of the Mu family would be so bold. Miss Chiao, how dare you threaten my son's mother in front of his morning hall? Threatening people from the Feng family. Feng Yingbai appeared. He was wearing a black suit and looked a little tired. At this moment, he looked at Xiao Jin with a sinister look. Xiao Jin turned to look at him, his expression indifferent. Oh, Mr. Feng? Didn't you ask me to come over to explain? I've already explained that I have nothing to do with this matter. Instead, you insist on pushing me into this matter. Do you think that your son died because of me? Aren't you afraid that people will laugh their heads off if this matter gets out? How could a normal person do such a thing? They couldn't do it, so the Feng family was abnormal. Feng Yingbai was so angry that he laughed. I know in my heart how my son died. As a mother, she was just too sad. At that time, if my son didn't stand in front of you, Miss Chiao, you would have died together with him. My son saved you, but you don't know how to be grateful. You even threaten his mother. You simply have no conscience. Say it again. Your son saved me? Xiao Jin's eyes widened. If your son didn't stop the car and talk to me, I would have walked away. Then, there wouldn't have been an accident. I was almost killed by your son. You actually said that your son saved me, who didn't know how to say shameless words. Chapter 207. Feng Yingbai almost had a heart attack because of this sentence. Because he couldn't appear too fierce, he looked at Xiao Jin with an extremely gloomy face at this time. Some people could be shameless, but if others' words didn't go along with their wishes, they would feel uncomfortable. The Feng family was used to tyrannizing others because of their own reasons. Any normal person would feel that borrowing other people's luck was a shameless thing. Most people in the Feng family never thought so. They only thought that this was their family's ancestors' ability. Even if it was borrowing luck, such a mysterious thing, who knew if the Feng family's luck was that good? Even if there were normal people, in the high-pressure environment of the Feng family, they were not allowed to show different thoughts. This kind of atmosphere encouraged the arrogance of the Feng family's children. In the hearts of most of the Feng family's children, others couldn't compare to them. Feng Yingbai thought like this. How could an adopted daughter of the Mu family be compared to his son? With their Feng family's ability, it was too easy to make the Mu family collapse. The people who came to offer their condolences were extremely shocked. They didn't expect that an adopted daughter of the Mu family would dare to talk back to the Feng family like this. Feng Yingbai only pointed at Xiao Jin, his voice trembling. My son is already dead. Not even a whole body was left. I'm sending off my son. Miss Xiao, if you have a little conscience, you shouldn't say such things. Xiao Jin was not moved by his words. He just sneered, okay, then I'll ask you. What do you want to do by calling me here today? Your son is indeed dead, but it just so happened that he was in the same car accident as me. I'm lucky. I didn't die. So what? What do you want to do by calling me here? Kneel in front of your son's mourning hall and confess my mistakes? Confess that I shouldn't have appeared in the same place as him? Feng Yingbai froze. Indeed, this matter had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. Even if he was too harsh, it would be in private. He couldn't make it too ugly. Today, not all of the people who came were from the Feng family. There were so many businessmen. He couldn't let others see him as a joke. Feng Yingbai calmed himself down and forced a sneer on his face. Okay, I understand this matter. It's true that it has nothing to do with you, Miss Xiao, but you were also implicated. Miss Xiao, why don't you kneel down and offer my son an incense stick? In the end, it was still Xiao Jin who had to bear this responsibility. Xiao Jin stood there with a sweet smile on her face. Is your son worthy? Are you worthy? Throughout the entire human world, this was the first time she had seen such shamelessness. After all, no one in the past dared to be so shameless in front of her. Everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air. Li Wujin couldn't take it anymore and screamed at Xiao Jin, Woman, what is the meaning of this? You are standing in front of my son's mourning hall, and you dare to say such things. You are so shameless. She didn't choose her words carefully. Feng Yingbai's eyes were also red from anger. He looked like he wanted to rush up and slap Xiao Jin to death. Just when it was a bit difficult to control, a voice came from outside. He's already dead. Why are you still making a scene here? The tone was strict, with a kind of absolute majesty. Everyone turned to look. Feng Yingbai's expression changed greatly. It was actually Zhu. And what surprised Xiao Jin was that Song Yanqing was standing next to Zhu. He wore a custom-made black coat, as cold as pine trees. Chapter 208. But the moment he saw Xiao Jin, his cold temperament seemed to melt a little. The corner of his lips pursed into a very shallow arc, and he nodded imperceptibly at Xiao Jin. He seemed to be reassuring her. Xiao Jin wasn't worried about anything. When he saw Song Yanqing, he was just a little surprised. Although the Feng family and the Song family had a relationship, it was just a dead junior. It wasn't enough for Song Yanqing to come personally. When everyone saw Zhu, their faces immediately showed a respectful look. Especially when they saw Song Yanqing come, they were even more surprised. Song Yanqing didn't often appear in front of people, but there were still many people in this circle who had seen him. It was because they were too surprised and didn't know what his purpose was for coming here. Zhu was also wearing black, which represented a funeral. When he looked at Xiao Jin, his expression was very heavy, But when he looked at Feng Yingbai, he was even more furious. How did he raise such a group of idiots? Although Azu and the others did things insidiously, their IQ wasn't low. They clearly suspected Xiao Jin. Now that the Feng family's junior had an accident in front of Xiao Jin, they should know that this matter was big even without evidence. The Feng family's fortune was destroyed, and the juniors had already begun to die. It couldn't be separated from Xiao Jin. But a woman who could cause problems in the Feng family's fortune definitely couldn't be underestimated. Azu hadn't made a move yet, but Feng Yingbai and the other idiots couldn't wait to offend her. If she wanted to kill someone, dozens of Feng Yingbai wouldn't be enough. What's more, the most important thing now was to know what she did to cause a crack in the Feng family's fortune. No matter how much he hated, he had to endure it. What Azu didn't expect was that when he came, he actually ran into Song Yanqing. Azu didn't avoid this Song family's junior, but he couldn't easily offend him. After all, the Song family's foundation was there. The other party had nothing to do with Feng Yingbai's family. When Azu asked, the other party said straightforwardly, "A child was in a car accident last night and was a little frightened. I heard that Uncle Yingbai thinks that she is related to the accident last night. I was worried, so I came to take a look." He didn't care about the dead Feng Yibing at all. Azu knew very well who he was referring to. He didn't expect Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing to have such a good relationship. Last time, it was said that Song Yanqing had died, but in the end, he came back to life. Although this news was kept a secret, I heard that a girl once broke into the hospital. Azu thought of something and immediately understood what was at stake. He followed Song Yanqing in and happened to bump into Feng Yingbai and his lover farting. Glaring angrily at Feng Yingbai, Azu was furious. "Your son's body hasn't even turned cold yet. What are you doing in front of his coffin?" It was one thing to think in secret, but another thing to think on the surface. This car accident couldn't be related to Xiao Jin no matter how hard you tried. At least have some face. Feng Yingbai's lips were pale. Azu. He was as afraid of Azu as Feng Yongshi. There was no one in the Feng family who wasn't afraid of Azu. Not only did they know the old man's prestige, but they also knew his terrifying methods. His face was blue, but when he thought of his son's miserable death, he was a little unwilling. His eyes were red, but his sadness was sincere. "My son." Before he could finish speaking, Song Yanqing, who had come with him, spoke softly with a deep frown on his face. "Does Uncle Yingbai think that your son's death is related to Xiao Jin?" Chapter 209. Because of the Feng family, Song Yanqing called him uncle. In fact, it was just seniority. Before this, Feng Yingbai hadn't even seen Song Yanqing's face a few times. With his status, it was an honor for someone to call him uncle. When he heard Song Yanqing speak, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. He looked at Song Yanqing, somewhat at a loss. Because he didn't know why Song Yanqing would come here. He instinctively felt that he couldn't directly say that it was related, but he was unwilling. In the video, my son stopped to talk to her. He still wanted to press the blame to death. Xiao Jin couldn't hold back and laughed out loud, making Feng Yingbai glare at her with hatred. Song Yanqing's tone became gentle. "According to what Uncle Yingbai said, why don't you just go and sue the person who killed your son? Those drivers are the main reason. It's the government's fault. They shouldn't have built that road. Otherwise, your son wouldn't have passed through there, wouldn't have met Xiao Jin, and wouldn't have died. Don't you think so?" Feng Yingbai's face was ashen. Some outsiders heard Song Yanqing's words and almost wanted to laugh out loud. Yes, this wasn't just Xiao Jin. His son's appearance there was a mistake. That road shouldn't have been built there. According to the Feng family's logic, no one walking on that road was innocent. Li Wujin couldn't help it. "According to what you said, isn't my son even more innocent? What did he do wrong? He died in vain." When she received the news last night, she fainted. Now that she woke up, she kept crying. Her whole mind wasn't right. Feng Yingbai saw her yelling at Song Yanqing and hurriedly grabbed her. "You? So?" Song Yanqing's eyes gradually became cold. "Uncle and auntie, now that you've lost your beloved son, I can understand your feelings. But in this matter, Xiao Jin is innocent. She also almost had an accident and was frightened. Uncle and auntie, why did you call her to your Feng family? Don't tell me you want her to pay with her life for your son? These words made Feng Yingbai and Li Wujin freeze. The others' expressions were also very subtle. The young master of the Song family was rumored to be as cold as jade. Who would have thought that there would be a time when he would be so overbearing? The key point was that even when he said these words, he spoke in a soft voice. His tone was not harsh, but every word was like a soft nail, piercing into people's hearts. Even if it did not hurt, it could not be ignored. No one dared to refute his words. At least now everyone could see that this young master was here to stand up for Qiao Jin. She just didn't know how he got to know Qiao Jin. How did they get to this point? It was nothing more than that between men and women. If they stepped out of here today, there would probably be big news. Song Yanqing was 25 years old. For a man, this was still the best age. But he had also reached the age where he should have some affairs. There hadn't been any news about it. Who would have thought that it would be here? How old is this adopted daughter of the Mu clan? It was said that she seemed to be around 20 years old. Who knew how outstanding she was to be treated differently by Song Yanqing? Although Feng Yingbai wanted to refute, under Zu's ruthless expression, he did not dare to speak. Qiao Jin also did not speak. He just looked at Feng Yingbai with a slightly meaningful smile. Song Yanqing continued, Uncle Yingbai, so what do you want to do by calling Qiao Jin here? Every word and sentence carried a meaning that could not be ignored. The Feng family could be unreasonable. He could make the Feng family have to be reasonable. Chapter 210. Feng Yingbai didn't dare to say anything. Under Zhu's cold gaze, he could only force a smile. Yes, it was my lack of consideration as an uncle. We invited Miss Qiao to come over just to understand what happened that day. It was all a misunderstanding. We also know that Miss Qiao was frightened. We spoke inappropriately. What else could he do? He wasn't important in the Feng family. Zhu was also here. Song Yanqing was the noble young master of the Song family. His aunt was also here in the Feng family. No matter how bold Feng Yingbai was, he couldn't ignore Song Yanqing. He didn't have the capital. His son was dead. He had no way to find evidence that this matter was related to Qiao Jin. This matter had to pass. Li Wujin's eyes were red and swollen. She wanted to say something, but she was firmly held back by Feng Yingbai. Only then did Song Yanqing's expression gradually melt like a spring breeze. His tone was also as elegant and clear as usual. Since it's a misunderstanding, it's fine to talk it out. Qiao Jin is still just a child. It's easy to scare her with such a big scene. Feng Yingbai, did you see how she was just now? Qiao Jin blinked. The reason why she didn't say a word was to see what Song Yanqing wanted to say. Although she didn't know why Song Yanqing specially came, to be honest, as a friend, Song Yanqing was so protective of her. She was happy in her heart. She naturally wasn't afraid of the Feng family, but she didn't need to accept Song Yanqing's favor. Moreover, she had saved Song Yanqing and helped him awaken his identity as a spirit master of speech. There were favors, so she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. The Feng family was bullying others. Feng Yingbai naturally wouldn't let it go. On the surface, he could only swallow his anger. In private, Qiao Jin wasn't afraid. At this moment, seeing his forbearing appearance, she sneered. She walked to Song Yanqing's side and nodded. I wasn't scared. Song Yanqing pursed his lips in amusement. Of course, he knew that Qiao Jin was not frightened. Zhu didn't say a word because he knew Song Yanqing's purpose. He was also sizing up Qiao Jin. The more he looked at it, the more suspicious he became. When he came in, he had set up an array. If the other party was an array master, they would feel uncomfortable. However, Qiao Jin did not have any reaction. Could it be that it wasn't Qiao Jin, but someone behind Qiao Jin? He frowned. Since Song Yanqing was here to get Feng Yibing out, he had to be polite. He lit a stick of incense in front of Feng Yibing's portrait and left with Qiao Jin. At that moment, the others suddenly felt that Feng Yibing's death was too glorious. Even the young master of the Song family came to offer incense to him. When they went outside, Zhu was sitting in the car. Song Yanqing dismissed the people sent by Zhu to send them off and let Qiao Jin get in the car first. After getting in the car, Qiao Jin still said, in fact, you don't have to come here today. I'm not afraid of the Feng family. I also have my purpose for coming here. Since Song Yanqing awakened her identity as a spiritual master, she could not see the other party's movements very much. Song Yanqing paused for a moment, then nodded. I know, but I believe that what you want to do can't be done in a short time. Since the Feng family dares to bring you here, it's hard to guarantee that they won't do other things in the future. I'm here today. At least they know that I'm on your side, and they won't do anything to the Mu family. Xiao Jin thought about it. It was indeed reasonable, although she would not let the Mu family be hurt. However, as a friend, Song Yanqing was indeed thoughtful. She sincerely praised, "You are a good person, Azu." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.